Hello. Welcome. Fix that. Okay. Hi. Hello. It's me, Imogen. Yeah. Streaming. What a good thing to be doing on a Wednesday morning. What a great thing. Wombat, hello. You are killing half an hour, and I'm here to help you slay that time. Flimp Flomp here in my swamp. Hello, Nano. Hello, Nikki. Hello, what? And yeah, I've overslept today, so you've not yet done your writing prompt. Well, you can certainly do it during stream. Love the sweatshirt. It's actually just a shirt. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's a band called Law Dispute, and whatever's going on here is super cool art. It's from their most recent tour for their album No One Was Driving the Car, which is so good. Such a good album. My favorite song off of it is called Environmental Catastrophe Film. It's a banger. I heard hi, hello, it's me, and my brain autofilled, I'm the Adstronaut. I don't know what the Adstronaut is, and I don't think I can be them even if I wanted to, because I can only be myself at the end of the day. Yesterday I started a new book, which is always an exciting thing. I started a book and then also in the last few days started resuming a book, I would say. But the book that I started is called Desert Solitaire by Edward Abbey. Edward Abbey was this basically environmentalist writer, very sort of anarchist, wrote a book. His most famous book is The Monkey Wrench Gang, which is a novel about people blowing up a dam, I think, for environmental, protest. And Desert Solitaire is sort of like a memoir, pseudo-memoir, about a specific part of his life when he was working as a national park ranger in Arches National Park in Utah. And he describes in the opening, in his introduction to the book, that the book is a memorial. He says much of the beauty and many of the natural places described in this book, many of the silence I describe and the experiences I have out in the desert are no longer possible. I think that's very real, right? The American national parks have become full of people and cars, and there is truly very very little of a way anywhere in this country to escape society and to escape to nature in the way he describes in the book, like true solitude. So, sort of a sad introduction, but he writes nature beautifully in the way he describes the desert and the way he describes just the beauty of the painted rocks of the American Southwest and the sand and the smell of sagebrush and all of these things. He's a great writer, and I'm stoked about this book. Fire Rider 17, hello, welcome. I'm doing well. How are you? So I'm not familiar really with your channel, but apparently I'm joining a book club with you, right? Because you are going to be in the Twitch book club of myself, Messier, Fire Rider, and I think maybe a potential fourth person, which is exciting. I'm super stoked about the book club. It's gonna be fun. So hi, Fire Rider. I'm Imogen. Now you've seen my face. Not a 100% streamer, stranger. Not fully a stranger anymore. If I'm gonna be in the book club with you, good. That's good. Hi, Elect Man. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, I'm also very excited for the book club. I really love this concept of a book club where it's just like, what have you been reading? Talk about what you've been reading and talk about that in general. I think that's very fun. Very, very like podcast like it sounds like really just a bunch of people talking about the same stuff but different. And I actually sort of just started a book club with just me and one other friend. My friend Alex, we decided in like spring that come summer we would start doing like a weekly book club, and we'd read something together and we'd talk about it. Because of any of my friends in my like D&D group, he's the most literature inclined. And it took us about halfway through the summer at this point to actually get going on it. So we discussed the first part and a half of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. And it was so nice to like be in a call with someone and just talk about a book and be like, yeah, I love this thing so much. Like, this was cool. What do you think about this theme? Where do you think this is going? All of that. So anyone seeing the Odyssey this weekend? I plan to. I think I plan to rip it off of some pirate website, I would say. I think I would like to watch it. Because, yeah, a modern depiction of the Odyssey is pretty cool. And you don't get that every day. And I don't know, I think it's probably gonna be well made. I don't know. Maybe it'll just suck. But there certainly have been other film adaptations of the Odyssey, right? I've never seen, I don't think, any Odyssey on film. I'm pretty sure there's like an old one, right? I'm pretty sure. But I have no idea. I have no clue. So, yeah, there's got to be like an old Odyssey screenplay, almost certainly. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll find like if there's an old one, and then I'll watch that, and I'll watch the new one too, and I'll see what I think. Is that when it comes out though, this weekend? So that's pretty soon, I guess. That's fun. Yeah, yeah. I saw that uh there's a lot of like controversy, I guess, because people are pissed off that there's like black people in the film and like gay people or whatever, which is quite silly. And I presume that's giving the Odyssey much more of a bad rap than maybe it deserves. I mean, I don't think people can really hate on a piece of art until they've seen it, right? Because of course, yeah, because of course. Like I was seeing that it like the trailer had like the dislike to like ratio was like immense on a fucking trailer. But I am generally in agreement on like a general negative sentiment toward Hollywood, and like this comes right off the back of a couple really successful, we'll say like fairly independent small budget films in Backrooms and in Obsession, right? So and then people see like maybe a film that seems indicative of a number of these things that Hollywood has been doing, like remake of some story we already know, which people are really hating on, right? There's the Moana remake that's like losing so much fucking money for Disney. So it sort of makes sense as like a viable target for people's ire, but I don't know. Wasn't Yowie a big part of ancient Greek culture? Yeah, yeah. The Greeks loved uh, loving boys and loving men and effeminate men and all of those things. Dude, I would have loved ancient Greece if I could choose a time and a place to live, like Athenian democracy, kick it with Socrates and Plato. Dude, that'd be fucking awesome. The only Odysseys I like are the original one. Is there a film or do you mean the book? And the Super Mario game, which is fair. I've heard good things. Wait, Super Mario Odyssey. Super Mario Odyssey. That's different than Super Mario Galaxy. I don't know which one Odyssey is. Oh, that's the one that came out on the Switch or whatever. Um, None of the old ones have Tom Holland and Zendaya. That's for sure. Yeah. Not a big fan of the soccer mom van. You're replying to someone. No idea. Uh, the Honda Odyssey. The Honda Odyssey is one of the better Odysseys in history. Yeah, that's that's so real. People insistent that half swan god, half Greek people need to be blonde haired and blue eyed. Yeah, right. Like it's sort of funny. And like I don't know, like that's how acting works. You know, like just because a play was written by someone who is German doesn't mean when you put on that play, right, every actor you cast needs to be German, right? So it is sort of a silly remark, and the art we create reflects, the people, the artists we have, and the culture in which we live. So sort of goofy. The Greek had no problem with yaoi as long as you were the top. Yeah. The bottom was a bit shafted, pun intended. Yes. You like Diogenes. I mean, Diogenes is a real goat. I must agree. The original one written by Homer. You probably haven't experienced the original one written by Homer. The Odyssey has probably undergone a great amount of change over time, right? Because it was originally told orally, and then kind of evolved probably from person to person, to the story that eventually got preserved and then translated to English or German in maybe your case, depending on what language you read it in. So maybe you haven't. You wouldn't even be reading the original by Homer, right? The original fucking Homer would roll up to town and he'd be like, guys, sit down. I'm going to talk and I'm going to tell a story for 4 hours. And then we're going to come back and do that again for the rest of this whole week. It's called the Odyssey. You ready? And then he would just start, dropping bars or whatever. Culture seems to have a misconception that the ancient Greeks were visually and culturally the same as ancient Rome. I mean, I feel like culture has like the ancient Greek, like guy in white, like robe like toga thing, a crown of. I mean, there's the fact that Rome took a lot of their thematic inspiration from Greece, right? So some of these aesthetics, uh, like crossover is the thing, but I don't know. Greek. I don't know. I don't know about culture. I only know about me. It's really hard to understand broad culture and how people generally see something as a person who sees the world specifically. I really enjoy mythos and legend. Same. Yes, Greek mythology has a special place in my heart. So excited to see the movie coming out. Recently saw the trailer. It looks so good. Okay. Yeah, I also love mythology. I use Greek myth often in my poetry. One of my favorite recent poems of mine is called Alone I Am a Statue, parentheses, Hermaphroditus on the Floor. So, of course, Hermaphroditus, Greek legend or Greek myth. I've used Nike in a poem, also in reference to a statue, the winged victory of whatever town that's in the Louvre at the top of the stairs. Man, I want to go to the Louvre. That'd be great. I want to go see all the beautiful art in the world, but there's a lot to do before that. What else have I written about? I've definitely used Narcissus. One of my first ever poems involved Narcissus sprinting toward an ideal self. Did he see the ripples left behind? Why something something something. Um, so I used Narcissus. Actually, that whole poem was very very Greek inspired. As he walked down the, although then I randomly bring Descartes into the poem later. As he walked down the not quite right angled steps, as modern Archimedes seeking a private eureka, um, why did he hope to see himself? Something, I don't know. I forget the poem. I had it memorized at one point. I definitely don't anymore. That was like the first poem I wrote that I was like, wow, this was good. It was like one of those like bursts of inspiration, and then you don't write anything better than it for like 6 months, right? And then you write something better, and you're like, this is my opus. And actually, that was Miserere, which is on the wall in calligraphy here. This was the practice sheet for the actual calligraphy one that I made. And then that one was my best poem for a while, and then it got replaced by something. There was a bunch of bad poetry in between. Actually, I was like just practicing and doing little things that I hated, and then it came back around, and I wrote Right Now, still one of my favorite poems. It's about a leaf. Yeah, so my best poem currently. I finished the second part of my big 4-part poem, which is sort of maybe the first poem that when I finish it, I will be like, this is a real intentional work that says something. It's called Monsters, and I finished the second part of it. The whole poem is about the idea of eating, and different ways in which we eat or are eaten. And I finished that yesterday. So the second part of 4, sort of like the Wasteland 4-part poem. It's very similar, 4-part kind of symbolist like. Anyway, so I finished that yesterday morning and did nothing for the rest of the day because I'm like, that was a massive emotional undertaking. That's really exciting. I'm impressed by people who can write poetry. It's so hard to write. It's definitely requires an openness, right? And requires a freedom. I think the hardest thing about it is mentally placing oneself in the space of being open to express honestly, and in novel, creative, unexpected ways. It's like, you know, opening one's arms to the chaos. It's floating down the river and seeing what rocks you hit. And that's very unstable for many people, right? I think of prose often as a very structural thing, where poetry is much more free. So, yeah, it is hard. I think the mechanics of it, it's hard to make words sound good as well. It's a hard thing to do. Yeah, I won't deny it. I feel like there was a point in my life where I'd be like, oh well, like it just takes practice. But no, like it's hard. uh, uh, Imogen, I know you probably know nothing about football. I am big on sports. I love, well, soccer. Unfortunately, I can't engineer out of my brain that it is soccer. I played soccer as a child from like age of 4 all the way up through until the end of middle school. Watched soccer. My dad has been the general manager of a major league soccer team in America, and has worked for a number of other soccer teams doing sales. So I actually know a lot about soccer. Um, so who do I think is going to win is an interesting question against like who do I want to win. And Asher, I know who you want to win. You want England to win. I think I want England to win. I will root against England all the time, but I feel like Argentina, I don't know. They are geopolitically more fascist. I feel like I've been like rooting geopolitically, so my whole thing in the tournament was like I want Morocco or Egypt or any African team to do well, because that would be a great thing for the sport, and for global politics, right? For an African team to go far in the tournament, and Morocco did well, and Egypt did well, so those are both good things. I'm mad at Argentina for the fashion in which they beat Egypt, so that's an extra reason to root against them. So I think now, who do I think will win? It's hard to say. Like Argentina has this kind of magic, right? When they play together, there's something about like Argentina as a team, where sometimes you'll see teams where they have like individually strong players and they don't like function together, But Argentina like locks in. Uh, England has just seemed really like solid in the tournament. I don't know. Um, I think England will win. I think the game will be. Oh, I was so happy that France is gone. I want Spain to win at this point, the World Cup. Uh, but I think England will win. I think there's part of me that's thinking like it will go past regulation. Uh, you know, I don't know about penalty kicks. I would prefer it not go to penalty kicks. I think it's better to end with a score. Um, so so we'll say England 3-2 at the end of extra time. Is what we'll do. Yeah. Once I reach 10K, I'm gonna let Imogen improvise a poem about the two Keck W. Yeah, sure. You do that. German poets in the late 18th century, Goethe, Schiller, Lessing, also really liked Greek mythology. Oh, totally. Yeah. That was huge. That was huge. Nikki's name comes from Nike, which means you are victorious, you're a winner. Um, the father of Icarus, bulwark of the bold, entertained his child's wonder, though he was turning old. Icarus's ambitions, they only grew of love. Daedalus crafted wings, and away Icarus flew. Then he fell out of the sky and died. Lol. I love that. I love that to just take something fairly earnestly for the majority of a poem and then just sort of be funny at the end. I think that's very nice. Yeah, Loki thought they would win. France? Yeah, it's I mean, I guess Lamine Yamal keeps his good record against Mbappe, so statistically. There's really no point to write any further poetry after this. Poetry has peaked. Yeah. And that's always what it seems. Read something and it's like, this is so incredible and touching and wonderful. I can't say that's what I'm thinking about Wombat's poem. It was good. But like, we read something and it's like, this is the greatest thing ever. And then we find another greatest thing ever that's amazing in a different way. And it's just this endless thing, you know? My longest poem that I put in the Discord recently was also about Daedalus and Icarus, but it was also in German, right? Yeah, my longest poem to date is Monsters, and it's only half done. I think I'm going to read it. It's very much employing Christian mythology, because I love using Christianity in my poetry as a not Christian and as a queer person. I'm going to start with part 1 and then we'll go into part 2. Monsters. 1. The closet. It will eat me. My back drinks in the blackness as my face faces the wall. I am smothered. Visible. Somehow, like they say in church. God can see it all. Through the lies, through blankets, probably, through the closet door. I see them, lined up before him, waiting for a turn to be eaten. I think of sheeps and of wolves. I think of boys, jaws filling up with innocence and blood, and I need a turn. Need to turn. I need to see. So my eyes back away, I throw off my veil, and I am back. I am witness to the door. Behind it, all the monsters bleed in the moving boxes. I know they are there, as real as King David, as real as this hunger who keeps me up at night. I cannot look away. Men stare into a face and believe, and I want to be men, a man. Like him, I want to throw stones, to swing and dance back and forth, untouchable by sword, uneatable, to wield with wit. It is behind the door. But I cannot unknot this darkness, I cannot unknow, no matter how many times I turn, I cannot sleep in this bed alone. So I face back, smothered in faces on the wall, with this starving closet, with contents who I don't believe are gone, and in whom I can't unbelieve, and I am afraid. But he is with me. So I swing and let go. I sever. I open the closet door, and inside I see nothing. And in the nothing I see my own face, lined up. I back away. I am smothered, laying on my back because there is nowhere to look when I know and lie and unknow. 2. Peach pit. I eat. Teeth deep in earth's flesh again, I reach my tongue toward the seed buried somewhere inside. Tasting poisonous knife-cut skin, it bleeds, snaking, chin-bound. I bite deeper into my life-bearing places. I find no cradle in dark, empty space, hungry and vacant, wondering at motherhood's providences. I don't thank you for your womb and for your summers. I missed it for so long. Those sweet times of full mouths and sugar syrup I decided to distaste. I cling to the missing fingers digging into the doorframe of my shape like outsiders already under the surface. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but you don't listen to wrong words, Miss Mother Virgin Earth. Does it hurt when I bite? Does it hurt when I eat without tasting joy? Never sowing new fruits with my knowledge, self-flagellating under the tree. You look away in shame, drawing up your roots at first sight of poison, but the girl does not crush the snake. I am hers, and she is mine. And I'm bowed down writhing. Thank you to the roots, to the sunset fuzz, to the seed buried in the womb, and we are thanking each other forever and ever, a woman and me in prayer told through sharp teeth, deep in earth's flesh again, tongue tasting world pleasures, biting the poison seed made new in cutting out eternity, taking it on the chin. A cradle of the blood called love. Inside, the snake dies, grateful and full and dark. Sated hunger, held in the hug of summer's bloom, mist, returning home from sea. A welcome feast, an open door sprouting roots. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Without a single wound. That's Monsters Part 1 and 2 of 4. Which I will finish someday. I wrote the first part like 4 months ago, 5 months ago, and then now the second part 2 days ago. Hello, you're here. You missed the poem, but welcome in, Messier. Welcome in. We got 3/4 of the book club in chat. That's sick. Gotta go. Have a good one, Wombat. Yeah, no way I'm gonna translate that one. Yeah, that's a lot. Like how you read that. Thank you, Cizek. Cool to see the poet making gestures that help solidify the phrase. Hadn't thought about that before. I'm glad you like that. I felt like that works pretty well. I like the chin bound part, and all of that. This is so beautiful. I love how your phrasing while reading really makes your words hit harder. Thank you. Oh my gosh, Electman, you're redeeming the brand new redeem. That's awesome. I made a redeem, guys, for a Freudian dream analysis. So that y'all can send me your dreams and I can make up goofy shit that says about you as people. So Electman, you say, I had a killer nightmare, a pseudo nightmare. Okay, pseudo nightmare. I was in my hometown, around Midtown, but it was along one of the busier roads where only a few old houses of lower income families had lived. However, along the street, just before an intersection, there's a large open lot. Normally, there's an old pizza place there. But instead, there was a large 2-story house, one with only one entrance, doorway, but there was no door. Just black void. I couldn't see into it at all standing there. I knew that others had walked through that door, but nobody that entered that house ever left. Staring into that Stygian black for myself, I knew that whatever was on the other side of the dark threshold was truly evil. I felt its presence around me, reaching for me. But before anything happened, I woke up. So, we're talking about, the hometown, the center of it, and an old pizza place that was once there. And I think this is obviously a strong indication of that being a representation of the idea of the past, right? This is youth. This is the past, and placing you inside that place, of your hometown. Is this your hometown, like currently, or your like childhood hometown, or is that always the same? I guess I'll ask that because that really affects our analysis here. If it's the childhood hometown, right, then this is like an innocent, youthful place, something that is gone, and staring into the void of what should have been something recognizable. This intimidating two-story house, a place. Arguably of safety, of development, kind of like an adult idea, a new house. This is the child coming to terms, right, with the fact of the future, the fact of aging, and the fact of death, right? So it's looking back and realizing that, as the child has plunged into the darkness, uh, and maybe there's still a part of the inner child inside of you that is afraid to plunge into the future, to take this step into the unknown and like something you don't know. Maybe there's a large decision, looming in your life, and the part of you that is resisting that, right, is the part of you that is past, the part of you that is central and true, the soul, the child, and so you're left with a choice to skirt your fear and continue to stay in a town that is familiar but collapsing. The places that once were are being replaced, and the world is changing around you in a way you cannot control. And you have a choice to either, plunge into that change and have yourself be changed along with it, or to remain sheltered, safe, preserved, but never truly move forward and never challenge yourself. That's what that means. There's no other interpretation possible. That is objective truth. And to the child, to the person attached to them, to their youth and their freedom, right? The darkness is evil. It obliterates the child. It obliterates the past. The past is obliterated by the future, and the present is the darkness at the inflection point of those two things. So, yeah. Either way, I'm sure you'll make the right choice, Elect Man. Good luck. Yeah, that's your dream analysis. Dang, I only remember my nightmares, so they're always weird. I remember my dreams sometimes, but only like right when I wake up. And then if I write them down, I'm able to like solidify them and keep them. So I have dreams that I still remember, but they're only those dreams that I took the time to like notate and write down after waking up. You dream like you're awake. That's terrifying. In my dreams, I'm not aware that I'm dreaming, but my capacity for visualization is nowhere near good enough to have it be a reality that's like comprehensible. Because I have aphantasia. I cannot visualize things while I'm awake. I can sort of almost visualize things when I'm asleep. The weirder they are, the more it sticks with you. Tends to be the case. Thanks. That was shockingly more accurate than you might think. Yeah. People with aphantasia tend to have more vivid dreams. Yeah. Not me. Mine are not very vivid. But I have a friend with like super vivid dreams, who has aphantasia. So you have aphantasia too. Crazy. And you're a poet. I think that makes sense. All right. We've had enough yapping and distraction. My dreams sometimes become lucid. I've never had a lucid dream. I don't think I want one. That being said, you know. Yeah. let's read poetry or writing. Um, let's read something from chat. I think that's generally what we want to do. Messier, Nikki. I want to read Ray, but Ray isn't around yet. We read Cabbage just recently. I guess I'm only self-aware in those cases and can't control reality. Yeah. I've had a lucid dream once. And the moment I realized it, I woke up. Huh. That's weird. Okay. Be Thou Wrecked. I presume that everyone hitting the button actually has things submitted. I also think it would be sort of funny if some of you are hitting me next and you don't actually have anything submitted to me. The redeem is actually a nice thing. I like the redeem, although it is channel points, which is kind of goofy. That it does push it to the front of my mind that like you're here. I can assume that Nikki always has something submitted. Yeah, that is the truth. Also, I haven't gotten started yet on doing what I've been talking about of like YouTube videos where I do the same thing and where I do the analysis of people's stuff. Though I am going to do that like very soon. I think that is a very good direction for me to like add to what I'm doing. So the people who have already sent me some things in YouTube submissions are going to be like the first 3. And I think from that point on, I'll have a Google form in the links of the YouTube videos to submit to those. So I haven't forgot about that. That hasn't died. What did we just read? We read Wombat recently, and they're not even here anymore. We read, oh right, we read the thing from Nano recently. We read Cabbage. We read, Face Your Fear. Elecman fairly recent with the Orcs. And short story from I don't remember who, The Meaning of Life. Yeah, that one was good. Lavendism. Okay, so it's been a while since we've done Nikki. It's been a while since yeah, good choice, Elecman. Be Thou Wrecked. What was the last thing I ever read from you, Be Thou Wrecked? I feel like that's a Do you have something submitted, or do you just press the button to mess with me? Be Thou Wrecked. Okay, you have To the Weed Growing on the Sidewalk. What else have we read from you? It was the autumn poem. Oh, it's been so long since we've read you then. Like, it's genuinely been like... Yeah. Been a minute. I join a lot. But I gotta save up for a Daedalus and Icarus poem a la Imogen. Yeah, that's true. So maybe it'll be like, but Nikki's poems are better. Shut up. So you can start with hers. And then what? You had submitted. Have I read anything from you? What? Are you? I don't think I have. You wanted to switch up your story? You can send something different. That's fine. I think since I've not read anything from you. Oh, there's also a Messier poem. If you want to submit something else, that's as sort of replacement to the other one you sent. Then that would be okay too. Stop Your Writing is Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. My cat is in a fist fight with a praying mantis. Gotta save that praying mantis. I love praying mantises. They're so great bug. Top tier bug, the praying mantis. What are the other top tier bugs? I mean, spiders are all top tier bugs. I love spiders. Also, genuinely, if you don't know my submissions right at the start, it makes my ability to chat during the reading. And yeah, because of your lunch. I don't want to be that guy. Yeah. So I can like plan on like when I'm, when it's an Elecman one, like when it's been a while, you just let me know and I'll be like, oh, let's try to like jump right into it, right? Stag beetle, Hercules beetle, rhino beetle. Elecman's a beetle guy, I guess. A beetle juice. Lace wings. They look like fairies. I don't know what a lace wing is. Dragonflies are a top tier bug. Bugs are top tier. Hold on. There are. Whoa. Oh, these guys. These guys are like super small. Sometimes I see them. Like, I've never known what these guys are. These guys are fucking dope. I learned something new. This is a lacewing. Oh my gosh, guys. Guys. Bug. Look at these bugs. They're so buggy. Oh, buggy friends. Look at this guy. Like a little cutie. Guys, I love bugs. Bugs. Yeah, dragonflies are good bugs. Spiders are good bugs. Yeah, any beetles are good bugs. Yeah. I'm editing my fanfic currently. Hell yeah. So I'm currently thinking about writing sucks, and it's painful to read. But again, I'm my own worst critic, as we all are, right? Submitted a different story. Hell yeah. The mantis is fucking up my cats. I bet it is. You want to know what a juvenile lacewing looks like? Look up the antlion. Oh, antlions are like they live in the desert where I live. I'm pretty sure. I'm totally still sharing my screen. Yeah. These guys, don't they dig holes or something? Yeah. Yeah. These guys. They're so sick. Look at that. Look at that unit. Dude. It's cool how flat that is. And then they turn into these guys, which, yeah, kind of lace-wingy. Anyway. We are unit lion. Yes. We used to catch lacewings when we were kids and make wishes on them. That sounds like something you could write a poem about. Roly-poly. Good bug. You were forced to go to bug camp as a kid. So bad memories. I'm imagining you like staring off into the distance, like war flashbacks to bug camp, thinking about all the traumas endured. Yeah. Okay, so Vamp and Order. Law and Order with supernatural creatures. Okay, this sounds pretty badass. How long is this? Not incredibly long, but we might not make it all the way through. I'm not sure. It seems a bit long. That's okay. We'll read what we can. So you're a writer of prose, I take it then. Okay. Vamp and Order. And we're in New York. The greatest city in the world. According to, like, Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm gonna do, like, 5 screenshots of this. I don't know if any of these are, like, a good stopping place, though. Looks like it's, like, a single scene with these two people talking. Well, I'll just take screenshots of a bunch of it. And then I will stop when I stop. I think that's a good way to do things. At some point I really need to go through and like clear out all the screenshots on my iPad. I probably have so much like poetry. Yeah, this is long as fuck. We're not going to read the whole thing. But we'll read what we can and we'll talk about it. I will ask you what, as we begin, as we are imminently diving into this work, are there any questions you have about it for me? Any things you might want me to focus on as I am reading the work, or any things you potentially want critique on? That's Act 2. Oh man, these get... that's all from last stream. Is this the... Okay, it starts here. Yeah, see, that's a lot. Well, I can only put in at most 10 screenshots, so I'll just put them all in. And then... yeah. We can read it. Pacing and dialogue. Okay, these are things that I am capable of speaking about with, I don't know, some degree of confidence. Somewhat functional. Maybe I know what I'm talking about here. Okay. Let's dive into it. Let's read it. Let's go through. Let's talk about things. Let's see what we like. And let's talk about pacing. And let's talk about dialogue. And whatever else we find along the way. This is called Vamp and Order, which, as it said, law and order, but with supernatural creatures and almost certainly vampires. There's a tarantula in the bathroom. I have a phobia of spiders. Yeah, that's probably not pleasant. Yeah. Okay. Vamp and Order. For over a millennia, vampires have evolved into a species capable of day walking, living their lives according to the rules set by the Council. 2016, New York City. Let me know when you're ready to bleed. Baby, you just need to send for me. Send for me. Send for me. Sorry, not singing. Woo by Rihanna. Rihanna? I don't know, Rihanna. Blasted on the road while Maria sat in the bumper-to-bumper traffic in Manhattan. Incoming call from Justin, the system announced. Maria, please tell me you checked your email this morning, Justin said. No. Why? What happened? Maria asked. Colin wants us to give Mr. Crane a deal, Justin responded. Now he realizes that attempted murder wasn't going to stick. Let me guess. Fucking go the lights green. Oh, fucking go. Oh, I see. Fucking go. The light's green, jackass, she said, laying into the horn. Colin wants us to lower it to one assault, right? To assault one, right? Maria pinched the bridge of her nose and let out a loud sigh. I told him and Noah multiple times, if we triumph for an attempt, that the defense has enough evidence to pursue self-defense. Okay, so, dialogue. Since we're starting with dialogue. One thing, right? You've written this with, like, in this very spaced out way, which I think is fine. You know, I think it's often a good way to write and stuff. But something that's definitely throwing me, right, is oftentimes with dialogue. I feel like a line, like a break, can often be used to indicate that we're changing the character, right? So like this line to this line in prose generally, right, is used to show like someone's talking, hit the enter key, someone different is talking, right? But in this case, we have like 3 Marias in a row, and each of these I had to ask myself at the start of the line, like, who's talking here, right? And I think you could, adjust that simply by like taking out the extra space, right, between the Maria lines here. You can just have them back to back to back. and then using the enter key to space them out, or even, you know, having this just begin right here, right on the same line. She said, laying into the horn, period. Colin wants us to lower it to assault one, right? And then it's just very clear that we're going straight into the same thing. Because the last thing you want as a writer is for your reader to be hung up on like asking, you know, like who's talking, what's going on, from like a mechanical perspective, right? This is sort of also the argument for like grammar. Uh, Grammar is useful often because if we write with like proper grammar generally, like nobody will have to question like how the sentences are put together, what things are supposed to mean, all of that. That's often why poetry can just ignore grammar, right? When we write poetry, because we want our reader to ask questions about what things mean. But really, right, it also means you don't have to use good grammar necessarily, as long as the fundamental thing, no one is sitting there scratching their head about what's what, you know? So so basically, more than caring about something being grammatical or something being correct or something being like traditional in terms of writing, what one big thing we want in prose is clarity, right? Clarity. It should be clear as day. Uh, you know, who is saying what and like what's going on, unless for some reason we don't want our reader to know, right? Some of my favorite pieces of prose are the ones where I ended up reading the entire book through and just feeling like, wow, like that was immensely smooth. There was nothing in the prose that made me ever have to question it, right? And usually that means it has some degree of expressiveness as well. But yeah, prose that doesn't leave you fighting, that doesn't fight you. And I think the reality is everyone has different kind of things that they prefer, different things that they will have resistance against as readers. So you can't appeal to everyone, but you know you want it to be consistent. And you even heard, right, as I was reading these opening lines, I'm like stumbling over myself. And I think that in itself is an indication enough that something is up, right? Uh, I think this line, let me guess, we're using the hyphen here to like cut them off, which is something we normally do. Um, I wonder. Oftentimes, it's really helpful for clarity, right? Uh, if we went like let me get, and then we have the hyphen there, right? Because then it's very clear this person is getting cut off in the middle of a word, because this was like let me guess fucking go, and then I'm like, cause I read those in the same voice because it wasn't clear to me on the first read, like cut off, right? So, and you know, like all caps, not that all caps is always the greatest thing to do. A lot of people don't like it, but I wouldn't mind all caps fucking go. It's very clear that we have a change of tone, a change of way of speaking, you know. Yeah. Or even, you know, she interrupts herself with her own horn. Fucking go, jackass. You know, whatever. Standard dialogue punctuation would also help in this piece as far as clarity goes. Yeah, whatever we're doing, right, we want things to be consistent. And that's important. Anyway. Uh but I'll only note that once and we'll keep reading and we'll talk about, you know, other things. That's exactly what the Teltor lawyer presented before Noah switched the plea discussion. So now we're pursuing assault 1 with a 10-year sentence. We get our guilty plea and don't go to trial. Justin said, chewing. Justin, what the fuck are you eating? She asked, firmly gripping the steering wheel. cereal bar, Justin said. With all this damn traffic, I should be in the office in the next 20 to 25 minutes. And Justin, if I find a single crumb in my office, I will have your head. I like I like some of the characterization we're doing here, right? Where we're through this conversation. You are telling us a number of things. We're setting the scene and we're doing exposition. You're telling us kind of like these people are lawyers, right? You're telling us that they're like doing this case. There's this other guy, their boss or another attorney or judge or whatever, named Colin, right? And there's Mr. Crane, who's maybe the defendant or something. There's another organization, Teltor, the other legal body in this case, whether they're prosecution or defense, I'm not sure. I guess they're trying to charge this person, so they're prosecution. Anyway, so we're giving a lot of information through this dialogue, and I think that's good because also at the same time, the generally overarching the conversation is doing a good job to characterize something about these two. Characterize as in tell us about them, tell us about their relationship, right? We are showing that like maybe Justin doesn't take things all that seriously. He's just like eating during the call, and Maria is fully willing to like curse someone out. What the fuck are you eating? I'll have your head. And this is sort of like the relationship, right? Like she's angry, or is willing to kind of have a loud mouth, and then he is sort of like a bit more like lazy and laid back, and they play off of each other in this way, right? It's a good dynamic. It's a classic dynamic. I think it's a good choice. Hi Jenny, can't stay, but I want to say you're amazing. I love watching your VODs. You're such a helpful and valuable part of the community. Thank you so much, Marissa, and thank you for the bits. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Easy advice is just to include some descriptors like body language, tone, or whatever in between the spoken word. Makes it seem less cluttered. Yeah, right. We are jumping very quickly from like this bit of dialogue, this one. And the funny thing is, it's often very hard in literature to follow dialogue that is genuinely just like, here's the thing one person says, here's the thing one person says, here's the thing that, or maybe we can use colors, right? We can do better. Here's Maria talking, here's Justin talking, here's Maria talking, here's Justin talking. With very little like in between, very little other stuff going on, because when we add something like more of this like things going on in the world, whatever, I like the car horn is good, and I think we could have more of that, as Face Your Fear is saying. It allows us to place these characters within space and follow this unfolding of conversation as a story happening in a broader like world. Right. So that could be something to think about. This is almost theatrical in some capacity because we are leaning so heavily on the dialogue, right? Where like you would read a play script and it's just dialogue with the occasional stage instruction. And that's a fine way to write. It just means you're putting a lot of pressure on your dialogue to communicate everything you want to say. Why is there a space between a quotation mark and the word that's? I mean, I feel like in terms of like formatting and whatever, these are things, of course, in a final draft you'd want to be consistent, but I'm not here to spell check and grammar check. I suppose you all are welcome to do that, chat. Sirens blared as two cop cars pushed through the traffic in Maria's lane, forcing some of the cars to move to the sidewalk. Does this happen in New York? There's no way that happens. Further slowing the already packed traffic jam. even the case, I mean, that's very kind of funny, right? So I like the detail. On the Upper East End, onlookers gathered outside of an apartment building. The cascading yellow tape draped over the sidewalk as two detectives arrived on the scene. Isaiah and his partner. Okay, so these like hashtags are a cut. We're cutting somewhere else. Um, yeah, I think that's fine. I think we can flesh this scene out more. Like, I don't think you need to be afraid to just like write more, you know, uh, more detail, more stuff, more of that juice in between. I guess you did ask about pacing, right? Um, and pacing is a tricky thing, right? Pacing fundamentally is a tool. Everything we do, really, everything we do as writers is a tool to keep our readers reading, right? Keep our readers reading. That is actually the author's single goal, um, or the book's goal, right? More so than making like great art or expressing ourselves. If we're putting something on a page, it should do this, you know, before it does anything else, really. And pacing is one of the biggest tools we use to leverage the keeping of our reader reading. So, what do I mean by that? Why does pacing help with this? And I think I'll use an example of the cliffhanger, right? Okay. Pacing to me is tension and release. I know we're covering a lot of ground to get here. Tension and release, right? Things build up, it feels like there's energy, there's motion, and then they calm back down and resolve in some way. We can also take tension and resolution or action and resolution, right? And a cliffhanger, for example, is a pacing choice where we leave someone with some unresolved tension, right? Which leaves the reader then kind of craving some amount of release, right? And so they keep reading because they want to get to that conclusion. And by giving tension, right, by having action, we're like giving the reader something to feel interested in. And then, you know, it sort of resolves in some way, and then they feel satisfied and they keep moving forward through the story. So, sorry for being a pedant. You're good, Alec man. Um, it's just not my preference to be one. You're perfectly allowed to be. Um, so right, tension is created through action. Release is through that action being, you know, resolved in some capacity. And I'd say in our first section, right, we establish a form of tension, right? The tension being, you know, she's trying to get to the office and there's this case and all of that. But I think our section generally feels a little unresolved, is maybe what I would say, and then we just jump to something else. And not unresolved in maybe like a cliffhanger way, unresolved in a way like it didn't quite come to a spot where it can move on. Because we sort of resolve the idea, right? We resolve the idea that she's going to be late, and then the sirens show up, and now it's like even more of a traffic jam, so she's going to be even more late, right? That's kind of the idea of what's happening here. But like, I don't know, like maybe just a line of hanging up the call, or maybe continuing, you know, something of her, you know, swearing at the cops again. She's going to be more late, right? And then that's a sort of resolution to the tension in a way. She's going to be late, and that's a problem. Now she's going to be even later, and it just sucks, right? That's kind of a release. Um, we can release tension through failure in a way. But pacing, right? Pacing is tension and release. Pacing is also like motion, right? The way we move through things happening. And by things happening, right, by action, by motion, really this means like things happening that move us through the plot, right? The plot is a line, to simplify the plot, right? We have like some resolution, some idea that we're trying to get to. Over time, we develop and we move through it, right? And there are actions that move us through the plot, and there are actions that don't move us through the plot, right? Changing to a new location, right, that brings us closer to something. Taking an action that gives the character like information they need. Um, you know, Someone dying, right? These are all actions that develop the plot in some capacity, and we need to have them for it to feel like there's pacing. If we don't take these actions, nothing is sort of moving, right? Another kind of action we can take is an action that gives us exposition. Exposition does not push us through the plot. And I think that's what's happening in the beginning of this story, right? Is we are setting up exposition, we're characterizing these people and having them do some stuff which gives us information about them and the world, and I do think that's quite good. But we haven't really like placed them as moving toward something, or we haven't taken a step, right, in the direction of plots. We haven't seen anything change, so to speak. We've just laid the groundwork for future change and action. And I think maybe having some change occur is one of those things that makes a section feel complete, right? We like give the reader something, we change it, and then we sort of resolve, and then we can move forward to a new thing that we give the reader. Maybe. It's all very big and structural, and sort of, a very zoomed out view on all of this. Ishmael, you just said no in chat. Was that you disagreeing with this assertion that our goal is to keep the reader reading? If so, I mean, that's a whole philosophical debate, but I think it's very important. It's one of the more pragmatic views. Yeah. Okay, going forward. We're at these detectives. On the Upper East End, onlookers gathered outside of an apartment building, the cascading yellow tape draped over the sidewalk, as two detectives arrived on the scene. Isaiah and his partner David pushed through the crowd, flashing their badges to the crowd control officer. "What do we got here?" Isaiah asked Officer Chase. "Two Vics. Male Vic, identified as Wesley Cardona. He had a financial advisor for Teltor Financial. Female Vic was identified as Natalie Verdugo," Chase said, reading over his notepad. "What's a Vic? Am I supposed to know what a Vic is? If I'm not supposed to know what a Vic is, that's fine." "Any signs of forced entry?" David asked at the door, looking at the door hinges. "Nah, but this is a weird one," Chase said. "Weird how?" David questioned as he looked around. "Our female Vic was found in the hallway. GSW to the back of the head," Chase said, stopping at the victim's feet. "Who found them?" David asked. "The building super. He was coming to fix a leak this morning. He knocked 5 times before giving Mr. Cardona a call. He left a voicemail and then came in," Chase said. "Vic is short for victim? Okay. I mean, I presume this is fine, right? We're writing this as like a crime novel. And like, I know that, watching like a crime show, right, they will naturally use all of these abbreviations and things, right? You hear all the time in police procedurals, which this is trying to emulate. Okay, then that's totally fine. I'm not hip to what that is, but I think that's probably super okay. And I guess as I'm reading this, if anyone with more context on crime, media, police procedurals, since some of you clearly have more experience than me, feel free to provide that kind of specific feedback. Um, our female Vic was found in the hallway. GSW. GSW. Now, am I supposed to know this one too? Police procedure is one of my favorite genres, but I'm trying to write. Sure, gotcha. Because I don't know what a GSW. Gunshot wound. Okay. um, who found them? David asked. So no. So what? Right. We have a choice as writers, especially when we write within genre. Genre. I'm making lots of big claims about big words here. Genre is a set of conventions. For example, in the horror genre, it might include conventions like The Final Girl, or it might include conventions like The Basement, or it might include conventions like whatever. In the crime space, right? It includes the conventions of these shorthands like GSW for gunshot wound and Vic for victim. And whenever we write within a genre, it allows us the very nice thing, right? It allows us a very nice thing of being able to utilize these conventions, right, as like a nice shorthand, and also as a nice bit of characterization, right? Our characters are seen as experienced in a way by just using like lingo and jargon, right? Jargon makes you sound smart. However, jargon, some people don't know. And if you choose to engage in the conventions fully like this, which is a choice you can make, you run the risk of alienation, right? Because when you make reference to something that someone doesn't know, you lose your reader very quickly. Have to make them go look up GSW and Vic and all of that. So HEA/HFN for romance is required. Sure. And there's an option in between, right, where we say gunshot wound in a sentence all written out, and then the next person's like makes reference to it as the GSW, right? Or one person says two victims, and then the next person replies something about one of the Vics, and then you're like, oh, victim is Vic, right? We can like infer these things through context. And then yeah. so for example, right, what do we got here? Two victims, male Vic, right? For example, two Vics. The male victim identified as one Wesley Cardona. He was a financial advisor for Teltor Financial. The female Vic, right? Very easy to like drop one of those things in, and then it just clears it up for the reader. Again, clarity. Now, there's also a sort of immersion to them using Vic the whole time, right? So, your call. I think it would potentially help, right? For example, like one way we could just use Vic and have the inferred context, for example, right? Is to describe two bodies, right? Male and female. And then you say two Vics, male Vic identified, female Vic identified, right? Which then tells us, oh, these people are Vicks. That's a shorthand for these people. So there are a number of ways we can sort of make this work contextually and like guide our reader toward our meaning, or we can just leave it as is, right? This is a very similar thing to like uh, the core philosophy of fan fiction writing, which I have come to observe, right? Fan fiction philosophy. I should I should teach a course. Uh, you know, FPH 101 fan fiction philosophy, intro to fan fiction philosophy. Because there's a question in fan fiction of whether you explain, right? Whether you include details for the non-audience, right? The person who like hasn't really played the game or read the story, so that it can be readable for anyone, right? Or you lean into convention because really most of the people reading your fan fiction know this media, right? And if most of the people know the media, then you don't really need to do the explaining and you get to save yourself words. It's a bit of a dilemma that one has to choose between, right, in this space of writing within known media. You'd be sat messier. Our coffee shop AUs gonna be in the material. I don't know what a coffee shop AU is. I'm like, I don't actually know anything about fan fiction. I would be the last person who rightfully should teach fan fiction philosophy or like intro to fan fiction philosophy. I just philosophize about everything and have dipped my toe into fan fiction through you guys sending it to me. So I'm not the wisest. I could be like an assistant professor, philosophic consultant. Moving on. Any signs of forced entry? Nah, but this is a weird one, Chase said. Weird how? David questioned as he looked around. Yeah, and I think each of these sort of like things tacked onto the line, right? He's looking around. You know, he's looking at the door hinges. And I think these are spaces we could give a little more, right? Where we could say like bending down to the door hinges, kind of like doing something to be investigating, you know, really showing us what it means to investigate. Because I think like the cool thing about these shows is like the competence in a way, right? The competence of the lawyer and the competence of the investigator and their, you know, their fastidiousness looking down at the hinges and looking around. Like, of course they're looking around, but what are they looking at? What are they looking for? How are they moving? You know, I feel like these are things I desire. Because again, for example, you've watched lots of, you know, crime media probably if you're writing this. And so, right, you probably have an idea, a very strong idea, a very evocative idea of what this looking around looks like. Because you've experienced a lot of this media and you're putting your spin on it. And it's probably a whole awesome scene in your head. But I don't get any of that. I get a man looking at door hinges. And, you know. Not gonna lie, between this and another show I've been following, this is giving me an idea. I don't know if I'll do anything with it. It's at least fun having ideas again. You know, if you're gonna have an idea in chat, like, man, I feel like you gotta share your idea with us. Hello, Happy the Hound, welcome in. Our female Vic was found in the hallway. GSW, gunshot wound, to the back of the head, Chase said, stopping at the victim's feet. Who found them? Oh, we read this. The building super. He was coming to fix a leak this morning. He knocked 5 times before giving Mr. Cardona a call. He left a voicemail and then came in. I do remember you, Haffy. Yes. Isaiah stopped looking down and a big whiff. Stooped. Whoa. Reading, distracted by chat. Isaiah stopped. It's not a good day, guys. I'm not locked in. Isaiah stooped down, taking in a big whiff of the victim's blood. He took in the smell of the blood, her flowery perfume, and the metallic scent of the bullet. Her scent carried from the front door throughout the apartment, stopping at the bedroom. This is where things get weird. Mr. Cardona was chained to the bedpost, where he suffered 2 GSWs to the chest, stabbed through the heart, and his throat was slashed. See, I think like the stooping down and smelling is very peculiar. Like, I don't know about crime scene investigators, but I don't imagine like a forensic person taking a whiff of the blood. And maybe this tells me, I mean, I know this world is like supernatural, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this guy's a werewolf or something. Werewolf detective is on the case, doggedly hunting them down. Ah, great. Give me werewolf detective or give me death. But I feel like, describing some of the internal stuff, again, what I was saying earlier, right? Sort of how is he thinking about these things? Placing me into the mind of this person, or in some way, showing me, the processing and the thinking, and like what this is doing. Because I think it's a cool detail, taking a big whiff of the perfume and blood, and he can smell the metal of the bullet. I think that means he's got very particularly strong smell. So, yeah. I don't know, maybe bullets have a smell. I've never shot a gun or sniffed a dead body with a gunshot wound. So I could just be me. Okay, a space detective action mystery story inspired by Super Space Sheriff Gavin Infinity. Don't know what that is. I don't know if it'd be a story that takes place in that setting or just something I change enough details about to make it less obvious, but that's the idea at least. Gotcha. Detective story is what's inspiring you. I had a dream. I had half water, half spider powers. I'm sure there's dream to be analyzed there. Thank you, Chase, Isaiah said. David leaned in. You thinking what I'm thinking, he whispered. Isaiah didn't respond, as something by the bed had piqued his interest. He put on a glove as he approached the headboard. David, does this coin look familiar to you? He asked, picking it up and showing it to him. David's eyes widened. His gut wrenched. He placed a hand on a similar coin that sat in his pocket. 2 years of hard work gone for one night of fun, David said, staring at the bagged shot glasses on the dresser. The last CSI tech packed up, grabbing the last of the evidence bags, leaving 2 detectives alone in the room. What did you get from their scents? David asked. Okay, so here, this is good that we are giving this detail. Miss Verdugo was a succubus who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. They shot her as she tried to run away, Isaiah said, tracing his finger from the corner of the door. While Mr. Cardona here is a werewolf, and I didn't get anything from the killer, Isaiah said, standing back up. That's rare, David responded. A loud, ear-shattering shriek came from the front door. Isaiah and David rushed out of the bedroom toward the front door, only to see a woman standing there bawling her eyes out, while another officer tried to confront her. This is Amelia Verdugo, sister of our female victim, Natalie Verdugo, Chase said. So yeah, I feel like we get all these like exciting details, right? We're introducing, this is our first actual introduction of the supernatural, bar like the little vampire sentence at the start, which is arguably not super necessary. I feel like I want to spend more time with this stuff. I feel like I want to spend more time with this coin and this gut wrenching. I mean, there's like a suspense in leaving that a little open. But at the same time, like, I think what's happening is we're throwing a lot of details at the reader. We're giving like, I after the murder, which this is fairly, reasonably paced, we're like, bam, coin, bam, shot glasses, bam, smells, succubus, werewolf, bam, 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 new woman, character introduced, right? And it's like, it's moving. It's moving. It's an AA coin. Right. I didn't know they even have those. Maybe that's just me being ignorant. Um, I see. 2 years of hard work gone for one night of fun. Staring at the bagged shot glasses on the dresser. Do you get the coin after a certain amount of time in AA? I feel like we could still dwell on this a little longer. Um, I don't know. I don't know if anyone else in chat picked that up, and it's just because I don't know um, about AA. And if that reads well for those who know, then that's fine. And again, that's another choice as a writer of, do I give a little bit more for people who might not know? Right. You didn't pick it up. Okay. Or do I... It changes between sobriety milestones. Gotcha. And that makes sense. So I just feel like we can... If this is fan fiction, it's probably fine to use the terminology of the game. Well, this is life. This is set in Earth, sort of fan fiction at most of like crime fiction and that genre, right? Placing something within the genre. It's not even really fan fiction at that point because that's like based on a specific IP. So no, it's just Alcoholics Anonymous. I wonder how many video games Alcoholics Anonymous appears in, though. That's an interesting question for someone to answer. But I think generally you can let yourself slow down. Also, Happy, the me next thing is sort of a joke. It doesn't actually like have that person claim the next spot on stream. It's just like it's a purposeless redeem. I choose arbitrarily who gets to go next. Anyway, moving forward, from all of that, we have our new character. Excuse me, Miss Verdugo. I'm Detective Wilkins, and this is my partner, Detective Miller. Please come over here so we can talk, Isaiah said calmly. Please, call me Amelia, she said, wiping her tears. Is that really my sister there? Amelia asked softly. Isaiah took a sharp breath in. It is Amelia. Is it okay that we ask you a few questions about her? Isaiah asked. Amelia's heart shattered. The only words she could get out was, no, no, no. She tried her best to hold back the tears, looking up. Yes, I can answer your questions, she said softly. Amelia, can you be fully truthful with us? You can be fully truthful with us. I'm a vampire, and my partner is a hunter, Isaiah said, pointing to himself and David. Her eyes widened as she had never seen a vampire, let alone a hunter. This is interesting, right? This is a detail that I think is carrying a lot of plot, right? Is carrying a lot of background, right? That a vampire is to be trusted. And I know you said in your like little one sentence at the beginning, right? Like vampires live by strict rules. This might be a time to like flesh that out to the side, right? Because I think this is a good detail that she'd never met a vampire because that tells us something about the world. Like, not everyone is supernatural. Uh, and there are people around who would have never met one of them, right? Hello and welcome, Nelman. And hi, Sandy. Welcome in. Welcome in. Yeah, if being a vampire and a hunter are big deals in this world, it feels so nonchalant to just like drop that in the moment. Yeah, and it's like, so we have like succubus and we have werewolf, and then it's like, I'm a vampire and my partner's a hunter, and this is a big deal, but I'm like, I don't understand then how that's different from being a succubus or a werewolf, right? You know, are those things just chill, etc.? You're writing a story. Awesome. Many people around here are. So you're in a place of like minds. That's what happens here. People write things and they send them to me, and I read them and I talk about them. It's pretty cool. It feels like something you don't outright state for your first chapter or two, and then use that as your big chapter ender. I'm a vampire. Shock. Gasp. Yeah, that could work in that sort of cliffhanger way, though it's only a shock if we understand that being a vampire is a shock. And you could shock the reader in like never saying anything about the supernatural, right? And then it's like, I'm a vampire, and it's like, whoa, there are vampires in this world. So could I theoretically send you my story? Yes, you could, by joining our Discord, which I will reach my computer to put it in because Nikki is away. I need another mod. Anyone else want to be a mod? Mod applications right now in chat. Anyway, we'll keep reading this one in a second. I think I want to go a little further with it. But before that, we're going to take a brief little break, because taking breaks is important and good. During this break, I would encourage you all to stand up if you are able, to do something kind for your body, if you can move or get water or have a snack, go to the bathroom, to please look away from the screen. All of these things are really good for you and your mind, and they certainly won't hurt you. You just sat down? Well, it won't hurt you to stand back up. And we'll be back in just a few minutes. See you then. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Welcome back. Coming back right when everyone goes. What a twist of fate, yes. Um, stand up and move your body. Yes, yes. That I hope you all did. I did a handstand during stream. I did 2 actually, so I moved my body. Yeah, how do I submit your stories? You go into the Discord, which I think you clicked the thing. And then you go into stream submissions and you read the rules. And then you submit it. That's the way. Yeah. Pretty simple. The rules say all the information you need. At least I think I did it that way. Yeah. Can I repeat that? Go in the Discord, go to the stream submissions forum, read the rules in the pinned post, submit. Reading the rules, who even does that? Yeah, most people probably don't, but I can still say it. So, let's keep reading this. We'll do like 30 more minutes of this piece or something. I don't know. I sent your first chapter. Fuck yeah. I go to the library to make noise. Who needs rules? That's fucked up. Okay. Back to the murder. The murder. To follow up on what you said earlier in my response to how to handle the I'm a vampire reveal, I ultimately think it could be done a bit more deliberately and elegantly. Not like I'm one to talk though. Hard to be elegant, right? Always. I like that energy messier, yeah. I don't like following rules as a person, but the library is a place where I will follow the rules, you know. That's a good place to follow the rules. So we're murdering people now. Yeah, we're reading a murder piece. That's what's happening, you know. Her eyes widened as she'd never seen a vampire, let alone a hunter. Also, like a hunter. Like, I don't know what a hunter is. And maybe that's okay. But I'm left with a lot of information that I'm not being given. And that's a dangerous thing. It can work, but it's dangerous. It's okay. How did Natalie know Mr. Cardona? Isaiah asked. He was her new boyfriend. They met at some cafe. Despite what we are, we don't lead those kinds of lives. My sister was a librarian. Oh, crossover? We're talking about libraries? And loved birds. Amelia said. We love librarians. Immediately, love her. Sympathetic, favorite character, librarians are the best. Did you or Natalie ever know that he had been an alcoholic and was 2 years sober? David asked. Yes. Me, my husband, and Natalie went with Wes to his 2-year anniversary meeting, and we celebrated afterwards at Ryan's Steakhouse. Please tell me he didn't relapse, Amelia said, panicked. We don't know if he did, but we did find 2 shot glasses in the bedroom, Isaiah said. Shaking her head. That can't be right. Natalie has never drank alcohol, ever. She helped Wes whenever temptation crept into his mind. She wouldn't enable him to drink again, Amelia said. Isaiah and David glanced over at each other. Is there anyone who you can think of that might have wanted to hurt Wesley? Isaiah asked. If he rubbed anyone the wrong way, it either had to be at work or back when he was an alcoholic, Amelia said. Work? Yeah. He was being overworked and it stressed him out badly. He even snapped at Natalie one day, it got so bad. One of his bosses was arrested for nearly beating a man to death. Wes was assigned to do his workload and a half of his boss's work, Amelia said. Yeah, I think, again, I already said it. Try not to keep saying it, but like more of the space, more of the setting, more of these people and their actions would help this flow from thing to thing and really have them feel like people, you know? Give us what you're seeing in your head. It presumes that you see anything in your head, but, you know, give us what you're seeing in your head. Isaiah stood up, reaching into his back pocket. Thank you for your time, Amelia. If you can think of anything else, please don't hesitate to call, Isaiah said, handing her a business card. David held out his hand, calling for an officer to escort Amelia out of the apartment. A subtle smile came across David's face. Hey, Zay, isn't your wife an ADA? He teasingly asked. Yep, that's why I'm going to call her office while you go update Captain Wells, Isaiah said with a smirk. So, end of that section. I think this section, definitely section 2, feels like, in a way, stronger than the first one. Just because you're giving more, right? There is more going on, and we are, like, learning things about the world, and giving more description and action, and things are kind of moving along. We're learning about this murder. I think all of that is, really good things to be doing. But in general, right, I think we can be more descriptive about the space in the world, and we can just let it sit a little bit. I think TV shows, and maybe this is somewhat of where you're coming from, like crime TV and crime fiction, right? These things do move very quickly. We're like going through conversations, and it's stuff happening, and it's often crammed into a 23-minute episode, and a whole story gets told and finished in that time. Books aren't TV shows, though, right? And we can't do the same thing in a book or in a story, because the TV show gives us an immense amount of, as I've been saying, right, sort of shorthand convention, and it gives us visuals, right? In a TV show, we can see the entire scene. We can see everything. We can watch the expressions and the mannerisms of our characters. And, I mentioned earlier that in some way, I need to move this. I keep kicking it. I mentioned earlier that in a way, writing with so much dialogue feels slightly like theatrical, like a play script, right? Where you have like dialogue, and like the occasional stage direction. And the thing with that, right, is in the case of theater, that is performed with actors who are expressive, and it's meant to be viewed in a way that someone is giving you the visuals. When we just have writing, self-contained as writing, we have to do all the work. And it's really fucking hard. And I think you do a like really quite a solid job at the dialogue, right? You're doing good work. You're storytelling, unfolding things through the dialogue. I think that makes sense. There's a lot of dialogue in crime fiction, so you probably have a lot to go off of and a lot that you've picked up. Now the thing is going to be taking like some of that descriptive skill you have as a writer, right? And then, sort of fleshing that out in terms of creating the world and creating the visuals and creating something that does as good of a job visually storytelling as these, police procedurals are. They're usually about 45 minutes long. They take an hour time slot on normal TV. Okay. I mean, either way, still, right? Point kind of stands. They move quickly, and they have lots of information and things going on, and their visual storytelling helps them with that in a way that, you have to create on your own as a writer. I don't think we're going to read any further on, so I will ask you if you have any more questions or thoughts for me. And I will be happy to dive, or if anyone has questions, or if chat has questions or comments or thoughts, all of those things are welcome. For what? And if not, I mean, I'll give y'all a second. It takes time to type things, but if not, then we will move on to something else someone else is writing and, take it in a new direction. Maybe more prose, maybe poetry. I think overall, right, a big thing is this visual storytelling. I think is what I would hope you focus on. being able to show the world, show the characters, and get that vividness, right? Yes, when I do a rewrite, it would be better to convert this to a script or to flesh things out as a novel. Yeah, and you can go in both directions, right? Of course, a TV script makes a lot of sense. And I would encourage you, if I don't know if the full story is done, or if this is like only a section of a larger narrative, but if you're continuing to write kind of forward in the story, it's not done. I would encourage you to take these things, these bits of advice, whatever you've taken away, whatever you're learning, and apply it to the new writing before you ever start thinking about rewriting anything before. It's always going to be more beneficial, almost always, most of the time, asterisk, it's going to be better as a writer to keep writing new things and to keep moving forward, and to take those lessons you learn and include them in the process. This was what? Yeah, this was written by what 16. Gotta take some mental notes here. I really need to step up my prose game. So do I. I'm learning a lot about prose by reading people's prose because I am not the best prose writer. Yeah. Sounds good. Would love to hear more. Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to keep reading your stuff. What on future streams for sure. You know what? He's a friend. Fuck yeah. It's good to have friends. After Messier, can you take a look at mine? It's funny. There are a lot of new people in here today. The me next thing is just a joke. It doesn't actually do anything. I just choose whatever gets read next. There's actually no calling dibs, no claiming. I should like put that somewhere in the stream description or something. It's just for everyone to go like me, mine, and waste their channel points. So I will just choose arbitrarily. Anyway, thank you so much for submitting and allowing us to read this portion of your work of Vamp and Order. I really appreciate you sending your work. Like, the opportunity to read so many things from so many different people, to talk about them, to use them to help many people learn, is something I treasure. And I truly cannot thank you all enough every time I read something. And it's a really admirable, lovely thing to be sharing your work to stream. I think it's super cool and always a really good sign as a writer to have that willingness to share. So props to you. Good work. And I hope to read more. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good way to start a stream. To start a stream, we're 2 hours in. It's a bad sign for my voice. Happy has seen my dark fantasy novel mostly and a couple other works. Sick. It's good that you're working on lots of different things. Being genre agnostic or genre androgynous is a good thing often. We're a bunch of greedy scribes who want to be read. Yeah, and there's a lot of you. Only thing you read of mine was a poem. Yes. And was yours the poem? Was it a poem about wolves? Or was that a different person with a wolf name sending me wolf poetry? Because I've had multiple distinct people send me, yeah, you were the wolf poem. I remember liking that. Yeah. But you're sharing your prose this time. Yeah, I think last time when you had sent that poem, that was long enough ago that I wasn't really doing prose on stream yet. And now we do both prose and poetry, so that's exciting. Okay. So we have submissions from Nelmond Doddim. It's just letters. I think that's gotta just be like sounds. Um, I did spend the first 45 plus minutes vamping. Yeah, it really, that's a space on the bingo card. Imogen doesn't start stream for 45 minutes. um, it's funny. I'm actually trying to like, I found this thing called like stream bingo, and you can like do a bingo card, and the viewers can see it, and you can like kind of compete, and there's all of the different things that I do regularly on stream, like that, or like going on long tangents, or me dropping things, or giving a random monologue, etc., etc. Lotus ignores my message because I'm stinky, and they've gotten used to my stink, and their nose does not detect it. Uh, yeah, I mean, Callie, you make it sort of hard, right? Like half of the messages you send are just like nonsense, and then half of them are actual messages about writing. Uh, so just read a morsel of my writing. You'll be left wanting more and end up reading the whole meal. There you go. Um, we know you're stinky, Callie. um, okay. I like how, Nelman, you sent me 300 pages. That'll be good to like screenshot two of them, you know. Who is next? I'm figuring that out right now. Uh, I tend to be partial to new people. So I think we'll do like a couple pages of the opening of Nelman's work. And then after that, it can be halfy, and maybe after that, I will still have energy. Um, maybe I'll not let my spell not let myself spend too much time. Is this in Spanish or Italian? This is in Italian. I don't speak Italian. They said Italian? Well, I didn't see it. I can't read Italian. um yeah, no. I wish I could speak Italian. I mean, I can go, like, I can read the words, right? I can be like, era una giornata normale alla casa della professoressa Marina Faccini. Oh, there's an English version. Okay. um, oh, so are you nel mondo di Mattia? I don't know. That Atia, Mattia, Di Mattia, Di Mattia, Nelmon. I think there's a name in there. I think that's what's happening. Yeah, no, I would love to read the English version. That would be dope. That's very funny. If you want to read nonsensical things, choose me. Yeah, I mean, I do. I love reading your work. But I'm a sucker for the people whose things I've never read before, you know? And so I have a way of prioritizing those things. Yeah. Okay. Well, then I will wait until you have sent the English version of the book, and then we can do that. That's quite funny. I wish I could just like speak like three different languages and read works in all different languages on stream. Although I feel like that would be bad for people watching, because it'd be like, okay, guys, now it's like Italian time, and much of the audience would flee, right, from me talking in a language they don't know, which is understandable. I really wouldn't want anyone to watch a stream in a language they don't speak. That sounds unpleasant. I don't know how one would remain entertained. Maybe you can sort of construct tales in your own mind, right? construct what they might be saying and fancify. Are we getting an English version? No Mondo. I'm just a moment. Okay. uh, and did you do the translation on this the Italian to English? If so, awesome. If not, I hope you didn't do ChatGPT. I'm pretty anti ChatGPT as translator. But you know, because that's bad. It is bad. It's bad for your art. Yeah. Does the fact you never read my book count as unseen? Yeah, you're also unseen. You're doing the translation? Okay. I'll give you a minute to do the translation. Because I want to, that takes time and stuff. And I think we'll do Happy the Hounds, and then once you've got yours set, we can go into yours, is what I will do. Because everything must either be action or characterization, and right now I feel like action to move the stream forward, rather than yapping and having characterization. So, blame Kurt Vonnegut, I guess. Okay, this is good. You've got like full on chapters. I wonder if we'll make it through chapter 1. This is like legit. Okay. Yeah, we can do chapter 1. That's cool. There's like a prologue in chapter 1, and we will see if we get there. You have a cover? That's cool. Wow. Neat. Maximum of 5 minutes, I am as patient of a person as I am. I'm a pretty impatient person too. So we move on. We forge ahead into the unknown. We go through the black door of the dreamscape, as they say. As they say. Gotta make a move to a town that's right for me. Yeah, basically, right? I don't know what that's a reference to, but always gotta move. And you can never let them know your next move, because that's important. Finished editing chapter 41 of draft 2 yesterday. That's crazy. That's crazy to write 41 chapters. You are a stronger person than me. So, prologue. The Breach. Before we start, Haffy, I will ask you, do you have any questions about this? This is entirely optional, but if you have any things you would like me to focus on, techniques, or ideas, or anything, really, then I can direct my attention to those specific requests. Otherwise, I will just read it, and we'll talk about it, and I will notice things, and we'll have a good old time. Not really, that's fine. Also, welcome in Astrid. Here we go. Prologue. The Breach. The sigil on the altar didn't bleed. It froze. Inside the ruined chapel on the city's western ridge, 3 claw tears carved into the altar stone began to steam. The temperature plummeted, rhyming the fractured masonry with white frost. That's a good verb. Rhyming? Hell yeah. The ambient chatter of the autumn woods was completely shut out. At the center of the nave, the light didn't fall from the broken spire. It rose from the dirt. A massive white wolf materialized before the altar, its fur radiating a slow internal glow. The creature lowered its muzzle, taking the scent of the sigil. The moment its nose brushed the stone, the energy shifted. The frost flared into a sharp, rhythmic pulse, sending a shockwave rippling through the ruins. Outside, the pulse snapped a tripwire. A metallic canister shattered the chapel's stained glass, flooding the stone floor with a thick chemical gray smoke that smelled of sulfur and burnt iron. Thermal imaging beams sliced through the fog, blinding, mechanical, and frantic. "Target has breached containment," a voice barked from the timber. "Deploy grid nets." The wolf didn't hesitate. Driven by the chemical flare from behind it, the creature leaned into a sprint, becoming a streak of white that tore through the brush, leaving a trail of moonlight imbued into the grass as it headed straight for the city's grid lines below. So, prologues. What do prologues do? Prologues do a lot of things. We had this conversation like last stream or 2 streams ago. What it is we do with a prologue in these things called fantasy stories, right? Because they can do a lot for us, and they can also be sort of like cheesy in the way where like every fantasy story seems to have a prologue that's talking about something else and then goes into the actual story. And it's like one of those conventions that maybe verges on trope. The prologue at this point. And I think that I can say that confidently because Terry Pratchett has made a mockery of the idea of the prologue as satire. And you can only really satirize tropes and culture and things that are established. But I like some of the things happening in this prologue, right? This prologue is action, right? It's like we've got this big wolf, and we're sort of doing a lot of like characterization of the world and like a vivid description. I guess vivid description isn't characterization, but it is vivid, almost dreamlike to an extent in our opening. And maybe part of that is we are really like focusing on specific like symbolic things, and then a lot gets left out in terms of the details, and it's just very brief. But you have action, right? You have like wolves show up. We're like sort of setting the scene for the book that like we have wolves going on. And for a second I'm like, oh, this is like high fantasy probably. We're in like a cathedral or like a temple, yeah, a chapel, right? And I'm like, okay, so we're in like fantasy, we have magic, we have like giant wolves, and we're still fantasy, but then we give like a nice subversion of that with the metallic canister. So we're saying something about like the level of technology, right? Which is good. Our prologue, it should be interesting and it should be good reading. But fundamentally, it allows us to do some setting of the stage, right? Particularly cool if a prologue can engage with like the themes or the visual identity of the story. And I think this, probably does, right? We're setting up the idea of maybe these magical wolves or magical wolf, right? And people hunting them. And we're giving the exposition of like the world's technological level. And it leaves like, it's ambiguous in terms of time as to like when it was. This could be in the future or the past, and I think that's good, right? When we leave a prologue kind of like open like that to later tie back into the story, I do think that's a good move, right? Where they are these kind of evocative, dreamlike things to pull our reader in. I don't think I would necessarily mind if this was longer. I think it's like well written, and like if we could talk more about like the ruined chapel and kind of the feeling and setting of it in a way that was still compelling, Um, and then uh, uh, just I think the woods and the feeling of the place and the wolf. I think we could spend another paragraph with the wolf. You know, not that it's like, not that it needs to be, but I think I would enjoy it. I wouldn't enjoy it less, right? And then there could even be more action and scuffle getting out of the chapel. That being said, as is, you know, I like it. It pulls me in. It tells me some things. Chapter 1. The Pulse. We have the breach and we have the pulse. I wonder if you're going to name your chapters the blank every time. I like a consistent convention of chapter naming. I think that's a cool thing to do as a writer. Although the blank is, I don't like the. I think the is a word that I don't like as a poet. But I think it works, the blank, the blank, the blank, the blank. Anyway. Levi knew exactly how long it took a body to freeze in an October rain. It's a good line. 2 hours for the shivering to stop, 4 for the blood to slow to slush, 6 before you stopped caring about the rent. He was currently at hour 3. That's good. That's good. I gives you some humor and some character to Levi, tells you something about his knowledge, and then boom, tells you about his situation. It grabs you. It's a good hook. I think this is doing some work here. The wolf blocking the deer trail 10 paces ahead was a mathematical disaster. It was a beacon, a bright white silhouette radiating a soft pulsing light that practically illuminated the pine canopy. In a city woods currently crawling with private security, the creature was a walking spotlight that guaranteed detection. "Get out of the light," Levi whispered, his voice raw from the wind. The wolf tilted its head, yellow eyes unblinking, locked onto his. Behind Levi, sirens cut through the city grid lines a quarter-mile back. He was running out of dirt. So I think we've placed this, I think we've placed this as the same, the same wolf and the same city, the same security as the prologue. I think that's fine, right? We get to tell it from the wolf's perspective and then drop into the character's perspective, which is cool. Maybe that makes me want more background about the wolf and stuff and more detail here. So we see this wolf and I'm like, this is my guy, Are you telling me this wasn't natively written in English? That bit goes hard as fuck. This is not the one that got translated out of Italian, because I skipped that while the translation was being translated. I don't know what language this was originally written in by Haffey. But those are separate things. Okay, city grid lines a quarter-mile back. Okay, originally in English. Still, good writing. He was running out of dirt. The state group home had legally discarded him on his 18th birthday 2 months ago, handing him a bus ticket and a cardboard box. Since then, the world had been a sequence of closed doors. A Memphis landlord locking the screen because Levi smelled like pavement. A Craigslist foreman yesterday taking one look at his salt-crusted shoes and shaking his head. Not a good fit, kid. So, right, we have now placed this, right? We are doing like a fantasy America. And I wonder if we could... Maybe it takes away some of the dreaminess of this prologue. I think there's like a decent argument to something like including that setting detail of this being like America, like real world in some way, maybe through these security guys, or that like the chapel is a Christian one. right? Because a stained glass in a chapel can be anything that exists, that can exist in any world and in any setting. Sort of a hidden world. Yeah, I think that, okay, that makes sense. Like yeah, this hidden reality with wolves and magic that exists within regular mundane society. And yeah, that makes sense. If you do intend that this is like yeah, I think it works either way. It's just something to think about, like how you want to introduce this world as real world, but not, right? There's some nice imagery in here. Absolutely, yeah. The salt crusted shoes, right? Like smelling like pavement, not a good fit kid. You know, all of this is nice. His life operated on one unyielding rule: everything that offers you something is already charging interest. The wolf took a slow step forward. Okay, so I see how we're connecting this, right? We have like the wolf, and he's like got this mathematically kind of minded, right? Numbers, logic, charging you interest. And then like we come back to the wolf because the wolf is maybe this like offer of safety in some way. Uh I think we might get in and out of this line a little more smoothly. Uh, the wolf took a slow step forward because like he's not being offered anything here, right? He's mostly being like not offered things by the world, uh, and maybe showing. I don't know how we would show that concisely, right? To have this sort of get to this idea because they're close, but they're not quite the same. Um, Survival minded, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think you are doing a good job of laying out his mindset and the way that he sees the world, and doing so very quickly. So there are like a number of very good things happening here. The wolf took a slow step forward, its muzzle pointing toward the deep timber. It was waiting, offering a binary choice: the flashlights on the asphalt behind him, or the white light in the trees. Something interesting to me, maybe this is something you don't want to give away yet, but the idea of how he knows there's an offer, right? Or if he's conscious, like, like I see it maybe as, since this is maybe a book about wolves, that maybe this guy, our Levi, our protagonist, has some connection with the wolves that is going to develop through meeting this white wolf in the woods. And maybe he's like, he can't tell how, but it feels like an offer, right? Some kind of line like that, to say that that idea of an offer is a feeling, or that it's like a literal communication, that but maybe he doesn't even realize that in his sort of loopy, hypothermic dying state. I think this is okay. It's just interesting, and it's a question I'm asking. And to that extent, like a question like this is maybe a good one for your reader to ask. Asking about how is this working? How is he engaging with the world? Because it's like a non-necessary detail that is kind of evocative. So, but that's something to think about. Levi spit into the mud, his knuckles tightening around the closed pocket knife in his jacket. The white beast was an unknown contract, but the cops behind him were a guaranteed eviction. He stepped past the last streetlight. If this is a setup, he growled, adjusting his stride to match the animal, I'm taking an ear with me. The creature moved like liquid through the briars, maintaining a steady 5-pace lead. Within minutes, the canopy choked out the city's neon. Levi didn't look at the landscape. He kept his eyes on the wolf's throat, watching for the telltale hitch of an animal about to spring. He was waiting for the hidden fee to drop. Okay, so I feel like I had the impression that Levi's like dying here. Are you next in theory? In theory, yeah. Um, I had the impression from this opening line that he's dying. I understand now that maybe he's just sort of standing in the rain, caught between the wolf and what's behind him, right? And then he chooses to either go back or to follow. Like, it struck me as odd at first until I processed this, that he was just sort of like following the wolf, because I felt sort of like I in my head had him like laying on the ground, and there's this sort of Salvation wolf above him. And maybe that was just me. I don't pick up on like the details of scenes well in that way, because I don't visualize them. Uh, but then also we had like the deer trail, right? I see. We're in a city woods. Maybe you could flesh this idea out more. That it's like woods that are like very proximate to a city, and like there's a road like that he's on. Because then you say like the asphalt behind him later, and I'm like, wait, woods, asphalt, confused. But I think I understand the way I'm seeing this is like road. The woods are over here, we'll say, right? These are the woods. And Levi is here, and he's trying to cut into the woods because he's escaping the police, which are like back here, coming toward him. And then there's a fucking wolf in the way, and he's like, why is there a wolf here? So he has a choice, right? Go with the wolf that doesn't seem to be hurting him, or, guaranteed against the police. And I think I didn't quite put all of this together until getting to here, which might be a slight thing that would be elaborated. Really, really making sure your reader is like set in the scene, and that sort of clarity is present. Yeah. I'm sore. I went rock climbing yesterday. Kind of went hard. Yeah, my back. Okay. He's following the wolf. Maybe some benches. A bench is good, right? A trail marker, just a regular sign. Maybe even a billboard visual. Yeah, billboard would be good, right? That places us like, there's woods, right? There's a billboard sticking up, over here at the edge of the road. Yeah, those are good ideas for imagery. This is all very nitpicky, by the way. Like, your writing is very strong. The trail pitched up sharply, morphing into a steep ridgeline of freezing stone under an open moon. Levi dropped to one knee, his lungs burning as sweat stung his eyes. Hold up. Stop. The wolf didn't maintain its 5-pace lead this time. It spun on its haunches, closed the distance before Levi could shift his weight, and thrust its pale muzzle straight toward his chest. Levi's defensive instinct fired late. His left arm snapped out, his palm hitting the creature's chest to shove it back. His fingers sank into thick, hot fur. First came the physical shockwave. A vibration struck between his breastbone, snapping through his ribs, a force that made his jaw hurt. Then came the instinctual override. In a fraction of a second, his heartbeat was slammed into an absolute synchronization with the creature's slow, massive pulse. Is that it? The pulse? Makes sense. Oh, that's cool. That's a cool description. The panic in his chest didn't vanish. It was simply held perfectly still by the weight of that single internal rhythm. He's communing as fuck. I want to commune with a wolf like this. That'd be badass. The wolf exhaled a sharp breath of air against his fingers, turned and trotted down the trail, slipping into the dark valley below. Levi stayed on his knee, staring at his vibrating palm. The internal pulse was still throbbing behind his ribs, dragging his weight forward. A sudden, terrifying wave of anger hit him. For a split second, when that rhythm locked in, He had felt wanted. Interesting, right? We have this like emotional connection maybe of like the wolf and its anger, right? And then like the feeling, the connected and the wanted. That's cool. I like this idea, this wolf bond or whatever. Then he reasserted himself, cold and bitter. It's a trap, he thought, his teeth grinding as he forced himself up. It's giving me what I want, so I'll follow it blindly. He wasn't going to be a compliant stray. If this thing was charging interest on his survival, he would pay it, but he'd keep his eyes open for the trap. The canopy closed over him again, dropping the temperature into an unnatural freeze. The white wolf slowed, its ears pinning back. A shadow detached itself from the cedar trunk. Levi didn't even see the swing. Something heavy struck him square in the sternum, the impact exploding the air from his lungs and driving his spine hard into a frozen root. Shock bit up his ribs, blinding him. Again, like, I like this, you know. The shock bit up his ribs, exploding the air from his lungs. I think these are nice action descriptions. Before he could draw a breath, a massive black wolf dropped its paws onto his right wrist. Bone compressed against stone until his hand went completely numb, the pocket knife slipping from his useless fingers. Winter. Off, a low voice murmured. The black wolf didn't retreat immediately. It lowered its head, its pale blue eyes hovering 3 inches from Levi's face, its breath steaming in the cold, before it slowly stepped back. Levi scrambled backward until his shoulder blades hit a boulder, his left hand cradling his numb right wrist. His breath came in ragged, uneven gasps. A woman stood in the center of the path. Oh, she's a woman. A low voice, but a woman low voice. Her arms crossed. She had dark hair streaked with black, sharp animal ears flat against her skull, and a heavy tail that lashed against her thigh. We've got furries! Let's fucking go. She didn't look at Levi with malice. She simply stepped into his space, her physical shadow completely cutting off his view of the trail. Does that mean Levi's gonna turn into a white wolf furry? I'm so stoked. Shifters. Is that like a... So you like become... Right, because I guess furries are people in fursuits, right? I'm not hip to the culture, admittedly. But I love furries. Y'all are sick. I don't know if you're a furry halfie, but shifters. So shifters then sort of become part human, part animal, which I guess, yeah, different from a furry. Noted. Learning things today. Vocabulary. So, get the animals away from me, Levi wheezed, his muscles locked in panic. You're in no position to negotiate terms, little wolf, the woman said. Aw, little wolf. Her voice slow, rhythmic, and entirely unhurried. She judged his dropped pocket knife with the toe of her boot. Oh, nudged. Judged would be kind of good there. Sliding it into the brush. I'm Jade, and you can stop looking for an exit route. Winter covers 300 yards in 4 seconds. You don't match her speed. 4 seconds, 4-second 100-meter dash. Hell yeah. So that's like 40 miles per hour. I don't know. I mean, if it's half human and half animal, that's a furry to me. Just a different kind of furry. I had to get a different take on the shifters, though. Okay, so your shifters are somewhat different from the popular convention of shifters. I feel like at some point on this stream, I need some of you all to educate me to do like a full, like deep dive on the furry lore, right? I mean, maybe that's like not information I'm privy to as an outsider, right? But like all these different things about, all the different kinds of animals and shifters. So obviously there's like different kinds of animal people. And like maybe this even isn't part of the furry lore because it's not about being a furry. It's just about people turning into animals. Um, but I don't, that's for another time. I need to be educated on such things. Um, Fast Wolf. You all, I don't know shit. Well, I mean, like, there's probably at least 3 furries in my Discord server. Furry wouldn't help you know about shifters. Shifters are fae. Okay, good to know. Good to know. But there's a resemblance. um, okay, I'll distance my brain from their furries. Levi swallowed the copper taste of adrenaline, his chest throbbing in perfect time with the white wolf, which sat calmly down next to his boots. Why did your wolf pull me out of the city? What's the trick here? Jade's eyes dropped to the white wolf's tail, which was resting directly over Levi's shoe. Her expression hardened, the amusement vanishing. She didn't deliver an explanation. She delivered an ultimatum. The guide didn't choose you because you're valuable. He chose you because you're the other end of his pulse. The people hunting him want the beast, which means they want you. Get up or get left. Is it like get gone? I don't know. Maybe get left is something people say. He's not... Oh, get left. Like get left behind. I see. Get left behind. Get up or get left. He's not my wolf. She turned on a heel and stepped into the timber ahead, the black wolf melting into her shadow like spilled ink. Good imagery. The white wolf rose and nudged Levi's hand. Firm, insistent. The pulse behind his ribs yanked again. A cold, hard pull that gave him no choice. Levi gripped his bruised wrist, took a deep breath to steady his legs, and followed them into the dark. Like Death Cab for Cutie. It's a good song. I will follow you into the dark. Yeah, Get Left Behind might just be like a little better for clarity. Most shifters don't take on animal aspects until they shift. Okay, so they're like fully human, and then they shift and become that thing. Oh, so I see. But you have like these sort of like animal people who are like spirit bonded to an actual animal. So it's slightly different because she's got the tail. Because a shifter might normally go full human to full animal, but there's like an intermediary anthropomorphic stage here. Gotcha. Cool. I dig that. That makes sense. 10 minutes later, the timber broke. The wolf stopped at a rocky precipice, and Levi stepped up to the edge. The breath left his lungs, all at once. A massive valley lay cradled between 2 jagged mountain ridges. It was a hidden town. It was an impossible fortress carved directly into the black stone. Thousands of lanterns burned across ancient battlements, but the light didn't flicker. It pulsed, a low rhythmic throb that matched the exact suffocating cadence of his own chest. I like this like world behind the world thing, right? This is great for fantasy. I think of, like the Chronicles of Narnia, right? The secret world behind the closet, or even a book like Murakami's Kafka on the Shore, where if you wander far enough into the woods from the cabin, you'll end up in like, a magical historical town, or any one of these things. I think this is fun, right? There's like, or Harry Potter, right? The secret wizard schools, existing parallel to modern day. You know, it's a good fantastical thing. I think it inspires wonder into, I mean, anyone. I think particularly young people, because you know, young people will have that wonder, you know, as to like, well, maybe there is a secret world hiding if I go off into the woods. The Dresden Files, not familiar. I've heard of the Dresden Files, but I don't know it. It's an evocative name. I guess Files. Files is a good name to put in things. The X Files. Book series by Jim Butcher. Nifty. Yeah. And I like the setting, right? We're in this like beautiful valley and mountains. I think we're in like Appalachia. Because we mentioned somewhere like Memphis. Yeah. We mentioned Memphis and he probably hasn't gotten too far from the East Coast. And I think Appalachia is a great place to put this, right? Because you have all that wilderness in like very close proximity to like major cities. It's a little different in the West. The West has this idea of like a vast natural space, the American West. And then like there are these cities kind of dropped into it, and these much larger stretches of nothing. Well, not nothing, the most beautiful things in the world. Um, if you look at the cover, you can see my blurb on the back cover. Perhaps I'll look at that after. Um, well, you're directing my attention to it, so might as well. Um, Shadowed Alleys, Homeless Stray, Glowing Wolf, into Shiftera, where ancient gods stalk moonlit streets, and a feral god, Ventaron, stirs beneath the cracked seals of blood and stone. Crowned in the moonlight, Levi awakens the beast Solara, descends, whispering of balance paid in flesh, one arm, one merciless choice. Newly mated with veins burning with seven. I like how like this is like very like poetic, like prophecy like, you know. Some crowns are worn, some are paid for in shattered pieces. That's cool. The Shifter King. Oh, the new Shifter King. Is the Shifter King? I don't know. New Shifter King or just the Shifter King? Not sure. You were here first. Well, life is arbitrary. um, I, you know, nothing matters. Ethics are a lie. The new Shifter King. New is interesting. I guess it does say something, right? It says there was an old Shifter King, which is could be useful. I won't judge a book's cover yet. We're going to take a brief break. We are going to keep reading The New Shifter King because I'm enjoying it, and we'll keep The Return of the Shifter King. The new return of the new Shifter King. The return of the returned Shifter King to new kingdom of Shifter Kingdom. I'm just saying words. Yeah, we're going to take a brief break. I will be back in just a few minutes. During this break, I deeply encourage you all to drink water, to stand up, to move if you're able, to look away from the screen, whatever you're doing, to take a moment of break from whatever you're working on if you're doing something parallel to stream. Because it's good to stand up, to move, to give the mind a break, and to reset. And once you've done that, we can come back and we can keep going at it and enjoying The New Shifter King by Haffy the Hound. See you soon. Guys, calm down, calm down, calm down. We don't need to be throwing down gloves in chat. This is a friendly, safe space. We do not we do not need to be having duels. We do not need to be having open conflict. Let's all be reasonable here. It's not that crazy. Welcome back. On guard. uh, so it goes. No peace will be negotiated between the houses of Montague and Capulet. You gotta use the Redeemer, it won't count. I guess so. I removed my dress. I have won the quarrel. Maybe. Did you miss something? Oh, no. I just came back very, very suddenly from the end of ads because there were duels being declared in chat, and I had to break up the conflict and all of that. We all shall return. Yes, welcome back, everyone. I prefer Mercutio anyway. Yeah, I like the side characters in Romeo and Juliet a lot. There's a lot of really good storytelling in there, for sure. Ah, do you bite your tongue at me, sir? I bite my tongue at my thumb at thee. Did I say tongue? My bad. Bite my thumb at thee. Yeah. A plague on both your houses. Oh man, yeah. So good. So good. You know what I really want to do? I've wanted to do this for a long time. Because I remember in middle school, at one point we read a play in a class, and during each class, everyone got assigned a role of one of the characters. It was Harrison Bergeron. No, Cyrano to Bergerac. There we go. Bergerac, Cyrano to Bergerac. A play. Great play. And in high school, actually, this wasn't middle school, but I think we did a similar thing in middle school. Everyone got assigned a role at the start of class, or, for the number of people in the scene. I wanted Cyrano a lot because I really liked the story. Yeah, so good. One of the things that I actually enjoyed reading in high school. But then you would go around and you'd sort of speak together the play. And what I want is a bunch of friends to get together and just hang out and read Shakespeare together. Like, we're gonna assign each person a role and like do a reading circle. That would be so beautiful. And I don't have that in my life. But that would be lovely. I don't know. Maybe a bunch of people can get together and do it on streams. Cyrano's nose speech is peak. I don't remember any of it. Is mine coming up after this one? I was the first to redeem the me first thing. The me first thing is a lie. The me first thing is a way to waste your channel points. It's a joke. Um, it doesn't actually do anything. It never has and it never will. Um, it's a bit. It's a bit. Sadly, me first is like cake. It's a lie. Yes. Oh, and it's not even me first. It's me next. Um, Discord call where everyone plays a character in Cyrano. Exactly. Right. I just want people in a Discord call to do that. Um, or on a stream together, because it would be really fun to do it live on Twitch. Read throughs, and then it's like a half, not really a performance, right? You don't have to put in all the effort or whatever of performing a play, but you can still get the literature. um anyway anyway let's return to this. How much more do we? Oh, we can read the end. That's so lovely. I love when we get to finish things. I was Helena in Midsummer Night's Dream. It was so fun. Yeah, I've never actually been in a theatrical production. I was afraid of it. Probably because, in a way, oftentimes we're afraid of the things that we know we will come to love. Um, and I think if I did it in high school, if I did theater, even in middle school, we had theater, um, I would have just fallen in love with it. And now I'm, like no longer in school, and that's so often where like theatrical productions happen, which is sad. I have the stage presence of an old sock, so I never acted in a stage play. Understandable. I think I could have like hella stage presence, especially if I'd like practiced and someone like helped me like be a good actor. Dude, I would love that shit. Uh there's an organization called the Nevada Shakespeare Festival, and they do auditions every year. And the audition is just a single monologue from Shakespeare. So when fall rolls around, if they have auditions open, I might try to audition, but we'll see where I am in terms of how much time I have for all of that. Because I am trying to ramp up the amount of time that I'm putting into this stream stuff. Anyway, my very first play was You Can't Take It With You. Never heard of it. Stage plays are one of these things I'll gladly miss out on, both in partaking and watching them, except for Shakespeare's plays, but I like those for reasons other than being stage plays. Yeah, and that's okay. Not every genre is for everyone. I think I'm probably kind of unusual in that, like, I really don't have any, like, artistic mediums or forms of art that I dislike. I just want to do it all and see it all and consume all of it, whether it's looking at paintings or watching plays or watching dance. Dance is so incredibly beautiful and expressive. See, I wish I was a dancer too. I wish I could do all of the arts all of the time. Music, of course, poetry, literature. Um, there are others. Film. Oh, film. Film. What a beautiful thing. Fan fiction. Animation. I don't know. All good stuff. Okay, let's keep reading. We're like almost done with this. We're almost done. 10 minutes later, the timber broke. The wolf stopped at a rocky precipice. Levi stepped up to the edge. We just read this, but we're going to read it again. The breath left his lungs all at once. A massive valley lay cradled between two jagged mountain ridges. It wasn't a hidden town. It was an impossible fortress carved directly into the black stone. Thousands of lanterns burned across ancient battlements, but the light didn't flicker. It pulsed, a low rhythmic throb that matched the exact suffocating cadence inside his own chest. No, Levi thought, backing away from the ledge. It's an illusion. It's a trick of the fog. He forced his eyes away, trying to map an alternate route along the ridge. But his body didn't care about his denial. The pulse behind his ribs thudded harder, a violent physical anchor that overrode his logic, forcing his knees to shake. Levi stared back down at the towering stone battlements, his stomach twisting into a hard, cold knot of recognition. He had spent 3 years running from the city filters. The city filters, looking for an exit that didn't require an identity or a cost. But looking down at the massive iron gates looming in the basin below, the terrifying truth hit him like a physical blow. This wasn't a refuge. The White Wolf hadn't saved him from a debt. It had just brought him to a bank with much higher walls. Jade stepped up beside him. I like how distrusting he is. I think this is good. Right, like you see in these like going to another place stories, it's often like young characters, the Harry Potter or the kids in uh 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 Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. What's it fucking called? The Chronicles of Narnia. God, where they're trusting. And their trust gets taken advantage of in the case of like the witch or whatever, and the one kid. But I like the idea of someone entering with like this incredibly like defensive skepticism. I think that's cool. What is this place? Levi whispered. Safety, Jade said, her voice dropping its casual edge, becoming heavy and absolute. The hunters behind us can't breach those walls. Step through, and the world can't touch you again. Stay out here, and you're just target practice. The White Wolf rose, gave Levi one solid, unblinking look, and began the descent down the packed stone road. Levi looked back at the dark, silent forest, then down at the breathing, pulsing lights of the city and the rock. He took a ragged breath, locked his jaw against the throb in his chest, and followed them down into the cage. End of chapter 1. That goes hard. It goes hard. I think, and I'm, it's quite interesting to me, the fact that you're 41 chapters into this, and I don't know if you feel, I don't know how experienced of a writer you are, Happy the Hound. This is draft 2 of chapter 1. But this is your first book. Do you find that... When did you do this draft in relation to like your chapter 41 or whatever? Because I imagine you've probably improved a lot as a writer over the course of this book, and I think that's good. And that's very exciting to me, because a first book often I feel like there's it's the meme of like the horse getting drawn, although most of the time it's a very detailed back of the horse, and then like there's the cartoon horse, right? That meme, vague shapes. But it gets better, the writing over time, and that's very exciting. About some weeks before. Okay, that's cool. So this had been rewritten closer to that style of the end, which is good. And I don't know, as a first book, you're doing fucking good. This is great. I gave some comments throughout, and I think setting yourself in those places, I think your dialogue is good. I think your descriptions of characters, wolf, people, both characters, good. I think your environments and your spaces, you could do a little bit better job of, I think, placing all of that within space, as we talked about. And maybe that's the big thing that I'm thinking about here. And going forward, perhaps, though I haven't read that much of your writing. Um, and there's just like little grammatical things, and maybe a couple of them, like a Leckman pointed out or whatever. But those just get smoothed out in time, right? And you know, I think as long as you just keep writing, it's something worth being very happy about. So, well, we were talking about media earlier. Musicals and operas that fall in that category, IMO. Not really interested. Fair. So I was the opposite. I was a theater kid. Could never land a big part. Couldn't see why in musicals. I wasn't great at dancing, I see. Gotcha. You were habit of chewing the scenery. That's nice. Anyway, do you have any other questions, Haffy the Hound, or does anyone else have thoughts, comments, questions on this work? Because yeah, the floor is still yours. Now it's my turn, you say, no Mondo. I mean, I like people who are enthusiastic, but I bristle at insistence. When you say rewrite, do you mean going back over changing words and or passages here and there, or like setting the draft on fire and starting from zero kind of rewrite? That's a great question, Alec Man, and I think many would probably be interested in knowing your process, since I think there are probably a number of people in this chat on their first drafts, or I think Alec Man is kind of getting back into writing. So yeah, how does that look for you? That's a question for you. Not often. Often the fire and new. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I imagine when you get, through an entire book of a first draft and you come back to the start, you're like, wow, I've like improved so much writing through a whole book, and now like you just want to burn it down and start over. I apologize, but I would like to know what you think. Yeah, and I'll read yours next. And it is the one that is next. So you don't need to worry. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense, right? Like the burning it down, and I'm sort of working on a poem that's multiple full drafts into the poem. Like it's been written and rewritten, trying to find the right perspective to take it from, because it's such a strange poem. I'll talk about it in a sec. But yeah. Anyway, I'm actually used to us all being pushy, hence the me next joke. Yeah, I suppose so. Anyway, thank you so much for submitting this, Haffy the Hound. I really appreciate it. It was a joy to read, and I think it's doing really good as a piece of writing. And yeah, I think it's at the point, where like you'd probably want to pursue to have someone like really intently beta read this, right, and give you those super nitpicky, like, well, let's talk about these sentences, or that level of like editing maybe, and like focus, because I'm a pretty zoomed out reader. Any questions about character and lore? I mean, I'm certainly interested in your lore and characters, but I'm sure if I were to keep reading, if you send more of this in the future, that will get answered. And yeah, developmental editing, I think, and I'm not sure I get the chance to go in that deep on stream on those kinds of details, and I think that kind of thing where you're working with someone to edit your work is a very like close working relationship. Um, but I think you could seek that out. Because there are things that like could be, sort of from like a polished, finished book perspective, like smoothed out in terms of like sentences. But I don't like talking about that stuff. um, it's like the seagulls from Finding Nemo. Yes, that's the idea. Mine, mine, mine. Me next, me next, me next. I edit my book myself, so I don't have an editor. Yeah, I don't know if you have many literary friends, uh, or any literary friends, but it could be really, I think, useful to you to like work with someone and go through and have them read it and be like, to give detail, like true, like detailed critical notes. Yeah, and other writers are fine. Cause, and someone you trust with your work and someone whose feedback you trust, um, that would be, that might be quite good for you. Um, yeah, because I don't like to get into the weeds on my streams, and I think there's a lot of weeds. There are weeds that could be gotten into. Um, but yeah, that's a different kind of setting. Yeah. So, um, yeah. So the poem that I mentioned that I'm like writing many many. Oh wait, no. Thank you, Happy the Hound. I didn't. I don't think I gave you the full on thank you. Um, yeah, like make friends with people. Be like, hey, Callie, will you beta read my book if I beta read your book? You know? And then you both get practice on like editing and reading closely and giving feedback, and you both get improvement on your writing, right? These are things you can ask people. I know it's hard to like get out of like just being in a Discord server with a stranger or both being in a Twitch chat. But I think if there's any place where that would be to y'all's advantage, it's in a place like this where we're surrounded by lots of good writers and lots of people who are trying to improve. Uh, and I think there are a lot of people here like willing to, help for help, right? Um, so definitely, you know, try that. I can't guarantee that you'll get like good advice from other people. I can't guarantee that my advice is good advice, but last time Callie read my book, he won of he won. You ate their pizza. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for sending this. I deeply appreciate it. Every time anyone sends your stuff, it really means a lot to me. Reading y'all's work is a treasure that I cherish. I need to say it. I need to say the whole spiel every time because like I mean it. um, yeah, so I'm writing this poem that's on multiple drafts because it's this really, really hard feeling that I'm trying to capture. And basically, what happened, it's based on something that happened in my life. A couple weeks ago, I was hiking on my own in the desert, and there was this like there's this hike that's like connected to a spring, and there was still some water because it had rained kind of recently, so it was kind of like a still pool with like almost like marshy in the desert with some cattails and whatever grasses and stuff. And I'm sitting there next to this thing writing, and I see like something like weirdly bright colored. I'm like, is that like plastic or something? And like in the water in the cattails, and I walk over to it and I find this full bouquet of flowers like from the grocery store still wrapped in plastic. And immediately I'm like, well, I can't leave this here. because out here it's trash, right? Leaving shit in a national park is not fucking cool. So I take the flowers, I stuff them into my backpack, I take them home with me. I end up putting them in a vase on the kitchen table, and they stay there for a week until they, wither and whatever. Now, of course, these are like probably flowers that someone left in like a very meaningful way with like a great degree of sentiment. Like maybe it was because an anniversary of someone dying or some shit like this. And it left me with this like pondering. And, I told myself, I'm like, those got left there and I get to take them home and I get to appreciate the flowers as a living person. And the gesture was made. So that person got their, cathartic moment. But at the same time, there's just this nagging feeling, right, in me. Like I desecrated something. I did something wrong. There was this holy thing that I interrupted. And I want to write a poem about this, about these flowers. And I think I want the title to be called Catabasis, which is a Greek word for a journey to the underworld. We can think of Orpheus going to the underworld for Eurydice. We can think of in the Odyssey, right? They go to the underworld, right? I think, maybe. Anyway, and the idea being, right, that these flowers were this thing given to the dead in this hostile place of the desert, and then they were taken back to the land of the living by me, almost like something exhumed from a grave, and then died again, right, withered on the table before being, thrown away. And I want to write a poem about this. And the first one was just a very like normal poem for me, just like poetic words and whatever. And it like wasn't right. And then I wrote something that was like a hyper condensed brevity, but I was using like all these big words and it just felt like I was throwing like big words at the reader. And then I started to write a prose poem, and it wasn't right, but I really like the idea of a prose poem as if I'm like telling the story of this thing, occupying that same space of the storytelling. Maybe it should be verse, right? Like blank verse, epic poetry, but short to recall that, catabasis idea. I'm thinking prose. I hadn't thought about verse until right now. I'm more thinking it's a prose poem, or maybe like a whole poem in quotes. The storyteller, Ray, like that poem that you sent me the translation of, The Flower, the one about becoming God as an artist and creating a flower, like that one, spoken, told to someone. That might be the way to do it. Anyway, I'm really stuck on this poem, and I'm on like the 4th revision, basically, of burning it down and starting over. So that made me think of that. These flowers are just stuck in my head. Because it's like, I did the right thing, and it feels wrong. And that's a really curious and weird and subtle emotion that has just been lingering with me. And it's just the strangest thing I've ever come across, right? Wandering across a bouquet of flowers in the desert. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is this here? So, yeah, I really want to write that poem. Anyway, let's read another. And next up, as we have discussed, as long as they are still here, is whatever their name is. What's your name? Nelmondo. Is there a right way to say this? I think it's Nelmondo di Mattia, but then there's a G5 at the end. So I don't know. Like maybe I'm making something out of nothing. Anyway. Just call me Mattia. Okay. Mattia. That works. So. Let's read it. You said you sent the English version. Where did you send the English version? Did you send the English version? Oh, you just changed the link? I see, you edited it. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Hell yeah. The text is big. I don't know if this is something that like my iPad does, where sometimes people will send me things and it will seem like the text is really big. And maybe it's just that a lot more people than I expect write in a large font, which is fair because that's easier to see. I'm going to take some screenshots and we're going to read it. How much should I read? Should I read the prologue? Oh, and then is history maybe the start of the next section? I'll just keep taking screenshots. I like taking screenshots. It's really fun. I like your first page with your big disclaimer. It's funny. People will like that. This looks interesting, the way this is written. Like in a good way. A lot of parentheses. I love parentheses. So you translated all this in like 5 minutes? How'd you do that? Okay, that's enough. We'll stop at some point. Okay, I need to put the pictures in, and then we'll read it. We'll read your story. I'll use Google Translate. Okay, that's fine. I guess that's somewhat better than using an LLM. I mean, it's definitely better than using an LLM. So hopefully, hopefully the translation will preserve your intended meaning. I mean, this is the difficult thing of Google Translate and LLMs, translation softwares, is it doesn't know what we mean, right? And writing, what we care about usually is expressing like a meaning, right, that we have in our head. And we do that through the specific tool of language. And then these translation things go like word, and then they just associate it with another word. And sometimes they look a few words in the other direction for like context. But in so many cases, words can be used in different ways, and like the word that they choose that matches our word is not perfect. I certainly encourage strongly the very artistic act of translation, even though it takes a long time. One, because it increases like fluency in both languages and skill, but there's the realization and the question of like which English word, which English way of saying something is truly the best way to communicate the thing I mean in Italian, which could look like a full restructuring of the sentence, right? And hopefully Google Translate hasn't spat out something entirely unreadable, because I want to read your work and your art at its best. So we'll see. Disclaimer. This is not a story where a child becomes president of the United States. It's a stereotype. No, it's a serious story at the West Wing. If you want a story where a child becomes president and has a slide put in the Oval Office, look at Disney. Cool. A child president of the United States. Prologue. It was early October 2023, and at 430 South Capitol Street, Southeast Washington, D.C., the Democratic National Committee Chairman, Jamie Harrison, was in a meeting a year ago. And it's a month until the presidential election, and various the vice we might have a real translation problem, not sure. Various the vice chair of the DNC were looking at the polls. Various is a name. The vice chair of the DNC was looking at the polls. Various said, shaking his head. Harrison, those Real Clear politics give Trump a 33.1% plus against Biden. Jamie asked while looking at the various polls. See, like, you might structure a sentence in Italian. You know, person said this thing, and then they say the thing. Maybe that's how Italian works linguistically. But in English, right, and what gives Biden a narrow defeat, Jamie asked while looking at various polls, is our, like, contextual grammatical translation. And this is where, like, Google Translate falls short at capturing the art, right? Because it's literal. It's extremely literal in its translation. It's a machine. We'll keep going, though. Various replied, looking at some papers. Race to the White House gives Trump an increase of 2.1%. Jamie said, looking toward the White House, could we replace Biden with Vice President Harris? Various said, doing a quick calculation while thinking back to Harris's disastrous campaign in the 2020 primaries. Better not, Jamie. We lose punctuation. Better not, Jamie, comma. In 2020, she withdrew on this. See, it was like during the 2020 thing, but it was really 2019. And it's very hard, right, to I've been reading Heidegger, German philosopher Heidegger. He has a work called On the Origin of the Work of Art, where he tries to define art. And I think so far he's doing a very good job. I'm not done with it. But he discusses art as like something with two things. It is an underlying form, and this is all of the text we have, all of whatever it is, the painting, the book, or the words, the sounds and the construction, right? And then there is like the sort of like understanding and like the act and the experience of art. I mean, it's not exactly what he says, but it's sort of an idea of a way of looking at art, right? Is an underlying form which carries the art. And in the case of writing, it's the words we put on the page, right? And I don't doubt, right, that the original words in Italian, right, are vessels for art and carry the art, much better than like Google's machine translation. But the way I think about this, right, if we had a painting, right, and it has like some stuff and some colors on it. I don't know. It's like Starry Night or whatever, and there's like a thing here, and there's a town. We have like this painting by I don't know, is that Van Gogh? Is that Picasso? I don't remember. Right? And we take a photo of it. It gets like a little bit grainy, right? And we like create a reproduction that's like not quite the original thing. And Van Gogh, thanks. Um, and I guess in the same way that I have made this reproduction of Starry Night right here, right? This is not Starry Night. This is not the original piece of art, because I am not a machine that is capable of remaking that. I'm not a painter, right? In the same way that, you know, Google Translate is not a writer, right? You've understood yeah. So, and like, and you said earlier, like, I apologize if Google made a mistake, and it's like, well, no, you don't. I don't think you need to apologize or anything, and it's just a reality that um, if you showed this to someone and said this is a very famous, beautiful painting, they would maybe doubt you, right? And so I look at this and I can't judge the piece as a work of art, um, because it's like looking at this and trying to understand Starry Night. And that's not your fault, and that doesn't mean your writing is bad. That doesn't mean you've done something bad. Because I don't know. I haven't gotten to read your writing yet. Um, so I'm not sure this is really like worth reading. We could certainly read through the whole. One could read through the whole thing, and look at essentially like the narrative structure, right? And one could say like maybe this is structured in a good way or a bad way. Um, but I think that really like misses the point, right? So so I would encourage you. I would encourage you, right? Mattia, right? Um, to engage in the art of translation and the practice of translation, because like it's really valuable, very beneficial for like one's understanding of both languages. I'm sure if you want to ask someone about writing things in two languages at the same time, Ray in chat, who just sent the big message, does a lot of that, and I don't know. He probably has good things to say about it. um, yeah. Um, I think someone else was saying they were translating thing. I think Cabbage was saying yeah, you're working on translating a German novella and the novel from the late 19th and 17th century, respectively, into modern German. You might be able to guess which one I'm having more trouble with. Yeah, but I bet that's a very, very valuable uh, thing that you're doing, right? Um, Impressionism, such. I remember a conversation about whether Van Gogh was crazy or not, when the topic was him cutting off his ear to impress a girl came up, and the response was, "Of course, because that's something a," and the response was, "Of course, because that's something a mentally sound person would do." I mean, yeah. um, so the question, can we look at the narrative structure separate from the content, right? Welcome, Colt. Been lurking. Definitely interesting. I'm glad you find it interesting. Um, That's it. I mean, there's a question, right? Can this be done? Can we look at a narrative structure devoid of its content? Um, and I'm not sure. Because like the content and the characters are what make a narrative structure work. You know, a narrative structure is something that carries a narrative. Uh, and I really just don't think, um, Mattia, that I would have very much useful to say to you about the structure, right? Because if someone came to me and they said, here's the outline for my book, here are the plot points, here is how it will unfold, I could at most say, like, yeah, that's kind of an interesting premise. And then I would tell that person to go start writing their book, right? And I think the same sort of this is the same sort of issue. Um, so I think unfortunately, and I really do hate to do this, um, is I just don't think I can like keep reading this and have it be fruitful and useful for you. You know, because that's what I care about. I do care about this being helpful, for y'all as writers, and I think I just won't have anything to say. Uh, and I do think actually the advice of undergoing the process of translation as art is very good advice, I think, and can help you, right? Because I think this illustrates at an extreme end what it looks like when you don't have translation as an artistic vessel, right? When translation is artistic, you create a new work that carries the voice. So I will still thank you, for sending your work to stream, uh, and it still means a lot to me that you want to share and want to hear my feedback. And if you do a translation into English, I will be more than excited to read that, in a way that I think does justice to you as an artist. Um, and it's always a very courageous thing to send your art anywhere. And I'm sorry that I couldn't really experience it fully and be able to talk about it in like a meaningful way. Um, but that's not anyone's fault, or no one's wrong. So thank you. um, Glad to know I shouldn't send you my outlines. Yeah. I mean, you could send me an outline, and I'd be like, okay, this might be cool. Go write the book. Because I feel like you can make a whole outline, and you can write the first three sentences and realize it's not gonna fucking work, right? So, yeah. Can we get a feedback thread in Discord? What do you mean a feedback thread? I'm open to the idea of adding more channels to the Discord. Uh, Got it. Thanks, anyways. Yes, thank you. And you're welcome. I find it funny how I write my essay preparations. Basically, it's a list of quotes and a sort of index of the topics, um, covered, and where phrases and jokes will go. Also, I occasionally go insert a picture of Homer disappearing into a bush here. Right, and then you fill in between those like consistent points with the two languages. Is it almost like a unique artistic expression rather than like writing in one language and then fully translating? Or do you still sort of start in one way and then have them be reflections of each other on like a sentence level? I'm curious about that because I haven't really read your works in Spanish. I was trying to use them to help facilitate my Spanish learning before, but I kind of flared out on learning Spanish, one of my many failed attempts. I read somewhere, like a place to post ideas and for feedback and bounce off ideas. Okay, yeah, I like that. I think that's sort of what the writing chat is meant to be, where people can just post stuff and talk about things, right? And ideas and just generally about all things writing. But I think maybe I could just rename it. um, I heard something recently or read something that the best way to learn a language is to have a need to learn that language or to have an incredibly strong desire to learn that language. And I want to know Spanish, but there is no fire in my mind or body. There is no fire of my loins driving me to know the language. And I think until I have that, I won't learn Spanish. I guess I was really stoked to learn Spanish because I was romantically attracted to someone who their first language was Spanish. But then that ended. I was doing a lot of Spanish during that time. Yeah. Aw, yeah. I wanted to write them a poem in Spanish. But no longer. So if I can like fall in love with someone who speaks 4 languages and will give me like a strong desire to learn all of those, that's the ideal. Fire in one's loins sounds like a clinical problem. Oh yeah, it's a great expression though. The fire of my loins. Um, polyglots are fire. Yes, that's sweet, but also sad. I mean, it is what it is. I find it sad that I don't really have like an intrinsic compulsion to learn a language beyond my own. Like I can acknowledge the value of it, but at the same time, practicing my English and honing my English, and like, there's more books than I can ever read in English. And of course, like a new language opens one up to like a new way of kind of seeing the world. In the same way that music is a language and poetry is kind of a language. I just don't have a need for that. Yeah. That's sweet. I'd like to have that kind of drive, but there's nobody in my life that I feel that way about. Well, there's no one in my life that I feel that way about now. I have like one, like 2% crush on a person who I don't know, that I am not going to pursue. Beyond that, I have no meaningful romantic intentions, and I mean, I love my family, right? My main reason for learning German is because there's so much shit in German that hasn't been translated. Right, and there's a real advantage to me speaking English, right? Is everything has been translated into English. Russian stuff has been translated, German stuff, Spanish stuff, because English is like the culturally dominant language in the world, right? It is the most relevant language to speak. And, you know, maybe like Chinese will eclipse that at some point, or even something like Arabic. Arabic is extremely relevant, but hasn't quite eclipsed it yet, I would say, globally. Maybe Hindi could get to that point, although it's probably too local. Like India has too many languages that any one of them doesn't really function on a global scale. Spanish, of course, is very useful as well. Anyway, yeah. So there's a lot of. It's a hard sell to learn a language, you know. And I'm like so interested in it, and I want to learn language, and it's such a valuable tool, and I just can't do it right now, I think. That's platonic love, though. I was referring to romantic love very specifically. Yeah, and I Uh, I've not been romantic for uh, like almost 6 months now. And I have really no intention of starting. No one in my life has shown any indication of that. Um, yeah. And I'm not like trying to fill my life with romance, you know? Like it's not that valuable to me. I think long term it's valuable in many ways, but right now I don't need it. Who needs romance when you have Twitch chat? Yes. Parasocial shit. Yeah, who needs friends when I have a bunch of usernames that send me pieces of writing that mean things to them, and I can talk about those things and engage in discourse on a level of meaning that is simultaneously detached and removed from the vulnerability of human connection, as though I've, insulated myself from the crushing social reality that I don't want to face and accidentally fallen into a space where I've like disadvantaged myself as a social being, because I'm better at streaming than I am at talking to people. Ah, fuck. You should totally read my poem next because it's fun. I saw your poem Messier, and I think it's really cool what you did with the formatting. That being said, I don't think I'm reading anything more today. But I know that Callie has a very strong standing in me reading their stuff next stream. Ray has very strong standing in me reading their stuff next stream. Everyone is always liable to get undercut by people who have never shown up to the stream before. And that's just how it goes. That was a nice deconstruction of Twitch. It was Nikki, you've got some leverage as well. Nice is a word. Nice is a word for it, I guess. One of those I'm in this picture situations. I mean, I was describing myself, really. But yeah, I mean, I can't help but think that in a way this is very bad for me. But at the same time, I'm like, I am going to spend concerted effort expanding my like digital presence. I am gonna start doing the long form YouTube stuff. I think it would be interesting to sit down and analyze as well, like a well-known poem on the YouTube channel, famous poems. So some kid in English class can be saved by me at like 11 p.m. Although they won't get what they want, probably, like an answer. And then if me posting like twice a week or once a week and then eventually twice a week on YouTube doesn't like grow things, then I'll probably go back to doing short form content. I realized like if I could support myself by like doing poetry related things on the internet, that seems incredibly ideal, right? That seems like a fucking badass way to live. And I've put so much time and effort into it, and I have like skill in all of this, that would be pretty fucking fun, right? Trust the process or whatever. Oh yeah, well I won second place in a spelling bee once. Imogen should read my thing. I got eliminated from a spelling bee on the word squirrel. My crush won first place in a spelling bee once, and I vowed to marry her when she didn't think I was a weirdo that one time. So I should be next. I feel like of those two things, Messier wins. Second place in spelling bee is quite the illustrious title. Yeah. Also, everyone go follow Messier on Twitch if you don't already. We're starting a Twitch book club together, and it's gonna be awesome probably and cool. And you should follow their Twitch because they stream and they talk about uh, all sorts of things, but often like fan fiction and other stuff. And they write and they've sent poetry to stream. All cool things that we do here. Never participated in a spelling bee. I got kicked out of an English competition because I was too old. I was 1 year older than the other kids. That's tough. I see your angle. You're trying to make me pity you, so I read your stuff next. But in truth, stream is concluded. Stream is Jover. Stream is Jover. Alright. Messier, how are you in my chat while you're live? That's crazy. Wait. People do that? I mean, I like focus as fuck on my stream. But like, how? That's fucking wild. To be like in a don't question a good thing. I won't. I'll even raid you. You know it's coming. People be lurking. That's nifty. We're gonna send y'all over to Messier so that you don't have to take the incredibly strenuous effort. You're also on Messier's stream. It's gonna be a raid of like all the same people just going to a place they already are. We're gonna go raid Messier so y'all don't have to take the immense labor of clicking yourself over, and so anyone lurking can just be shuffled on over in the big game of Twitch. Caught in the web. The web of the web. Hey, that's how that works. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I've been Imogen. Keep making art you love. Keep finding beauty in the world. Take care of yourself.